that office? Oh, that's not good.
30 seconds.
Not Boston.
Yeah, right. Come on, you get me. He's not listening.
5. You guys are live.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Auburn, Mass. Fire Station Building Committee meeting for December 17th, 2024. This is being recorded and broadcast on local television. I ask if anybody else is recording, and see none. That's good. So tonight's meeting agenda is just a continuation from last night, and it's more presentations and interviews of the owner project manager candidates. So tonight, leading off the band is Lyro. So the floor is yours. We do have a standard set of 5 questions at the end we need to get to, so probably need at least to keep in mind like 10 or 15 minutes.
Excellent, thank you. 150 days. 150 days is the time between roughly now and when town meeting is in May. And in these first 150 days that you got a lot of work. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. There are 3 major things that need to be done, and those 3 things are, first of all, to solidify the scope, the design, progress the design well enough in order to be able to get a robust cost estimate. Second thing, establish a project budget with that particular cost estimate. And then third, of course, is to get the word out to the folks here in Auburn about the project so that it gets supported well at town meeting and, if necessary, at an override. Those 3 items are not necessarily concurrent or consecutive, but rather concurrent. They can happen. So a lot of this can happen at the same time, but it's real important that an excellent job gets done on that, and it requires your participation in a big way to make timely decisions in order to be able to meet that schedule. So imagine, if you will, that you're not on the building committee. Imagine that you're just like a regular homeowner here in Auburn, and you're asked whether or not to support this project or not. There are 2 things, whether you know it or not, that has to be, known in your mind. One is this project necessary? Is the whatever they're proposing going to satisfy the needs of what's necessary? And then, of course, how much is it going to cost, and particularly, how much is it going to cost me? So in order to be able to, if the regular homeowner doesn't know the answer to those questions, they're probably going to vote no. They may be in support of it or the idea of it, but if they don't know enough of the particulars about the project, there's some uncertainty. When you're uncertain about something, you just don't typically, vote for it. So communicating all those, what this project is going to be about and what it's going to cost, and is all very critical and all needs to happen before the town meeting happens in May. So we've devised, we've got like a roadmap for that period of time, and I'm going to ask my colleague Marty Goulet here. Marty, just so you know, Marty is like possibly the best project manager in Massachusetts. And how do I know this? I've been working with him for over 12 years, and his background, he is been chairman of his select board in his town of New Braintree, where he's also been a volunteer service firefighter for many years. That's been his night job. During the day, he's been in construction and project management. And so,
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul. Happy to be here tonight with you. Thank you for considering us. We're looking forward to getting to work for you on this project. It's an exciting project. We know you've done a lot of work so far, and we want to jump right in. As soon as you decide to hire us, we want to jump right in and start being of value to you. And the way we're going to do that is, as Paul said, we have 150 days to get the yes at town meeting and the debt exclusion vote. And the way we do that is we start immediately with a design review of where you are today and examine how you got to the design, the schematic design you're at today, and the steps the architect has taken. And the way we'll do that is we'll request a meeting with the designer. We'll get copies of all the current design documents, and we'll immediately begin a review of the design, how you got there, what's in the documents, and begin to create a list of value-added suggestions that we might incorporate into the drawings. So whether that be value engineering that saves you money or value engineering that adds value, that you might decide you want to add this feature and that we need to find room in the budget for it. We need a couple of weeks at the most to evaluate the drawings, and then we want to get the drawings, our suggestions to you, and the designer, you decide what you want to incorporate into the final schematic, and we want to get that in the hands of our estimator. With that, and you know, in a very short period of time, PM&C, our estimator, should give us what this project that we've decided is the final schematic design should cost you. And once we have that information, you'll need to give us one of two pieces of direction. You'll either say to us, that number is exactly where we want to be, let's go forward with the final design, or you'll say, we can't afford that number, we need to sharpen our pencils, or some gray area in between. So that'll drive the remainder of the work to do once we know what the budget is. So we need that budget number as quickly as possible. And then while the PM&C is working on that estimate, we want to continue our review of the design and look for opportunities to save value, to improve the quality of the documents, and to understand the operation of the fire station as designed. We take that time, opportunity to meet with other stakeholders because we want to get early buy-in from other boards and committees to make sure that they don't have any requirements that haven't been discussed yet that might impact the scope of work or the cost. So we'll meet with Concom, Planning Board, Highway Department, so on and so forth, and get their understanding of the process of the project as it is currently in design. And we want to be able to show the community that we've done the work to show that this building is needed and it's the right design. We have an understanding that there's a cost to the town of Auburn to do nothing. There's a dollar value to do nothing, and we don't want to be there. So in a project I was involved in Orange, a large school project, there was a lot of opposition to the school because it was such a high dollar value for a town like Orange. And we spent a lot of time working with the other boards and committees and the town examining the cost of doing nothing. You know, if you don't move forward with your project, you still have to make improvements to the current fire station. You have to change the roof eventually. You have to change the heating system eventually. You may have to put in an addition on to cover an immediate need. And there's a cost associated with all those things. So we clearly show that the value of doing nothing is not far away from the value of building a new station. And the best value is a brand new station that'll adequately serve your needs for the decades to come. So that's where we want to get. We want to get to yes with that information.
Yes to that.
We want to get to yes to this. And, you know, we've already looked at the design, and we already have suggestions about this, that, and the other thing, because that's what we do, that's the way we think. And we'll share that with you at some point after we get hired. But one of the other team members we have, Matt here, is going to be involved a little bit during the design process, but mostly in the construction phase. And he's going to talk a little bit about how this project affects the the community during construction and how we keep the contractor from impacting negatively the neighborhood.
Thanks, Marty. Hello, my name is Matthew Hennessy. I worked with Lero Hill for 8 years on the OPM side. Prior to that, I was on the GC side for a long time. And so I am, right now, currently I'm working on the Hingham Public Safety Facility. And prior to that, I worked at the MIT DOT, Department of Transportation headquarters in Cambridge as a quality control project manager. So I am your site guy. That's what I am. I know the physical world. I know the site. And so, I've been looking at this. And so my 150 days, the 150 days, my work on this is less than the others. But this is something I look at. So we look at this. This is what we have right now. There are 2 logistical plans that we have to come up with right away for our own understanding. The first is the relationship with the site to the roads and the traffic lights that you have. And so what will you need? How will the Mass DOT be involved, be impacted? This is critical, obviously, for a police station. I have that right now going on in Hingham, which you have a choice to make it a part of this project or a separate project. These are kind of things that have to be discussed. What are the pros and the cons to making it part of this project or making it to a separate project? So that's going to be worked out or discussed. John and Marty will be taking care of that. But my point is that when I look at this, I'm thinking like how a GC thinks and how I think and what I think. How would I make this the safest site, the least impactful to the community, right? Like obviously 12 and 20 you can't approach from there, right? That makes sense. So like we're thinking about Prospect, right? The drive over here we're unsure of yet, but Prospect we know is a real feasible way to approach the job. So this is the stuff that we're thinking about. We want to be able to come in, run in, get on the job running. I'm at Hingham. We're across the street from the MBTA parking lot with the ferry that goes to Boston, and the GC has a big part of the lot for his swing space, for storage and such. And I don't know what it is about people looking to get in the morning to get to that ferry, but they are crazy. They drive like animals, and so like I know this. Like right, they're coming. Pedestrians don't exist. It's shocking. So my job, I know. Okay, every morning, flagman. Boom. I have to make sure I see the flag guy there, which is, as we know, the person who directs the traffic. If any deliveries have to come, and just physically deals with that to keep the safety for everyone. So that's the stuff that I'm always thinking about. And that's where we're working on with that, and we'll jump right in with that. So with that, I want to pass it on to John.
Good evening, I'm John McGee. I'm a retired fire lieutenant from the town of Manchester, Connecticut. I joined Lero Hill about 6 years ago on doing design work and consulting for the Lero Hill firm. In regards to mostly public safety facilities, some other municipal facilities, but obviously with my background, my specialty is in the fire department and fire stations. And as you'll see with this design, I don't have to go too far with this to tell you guys already have a very strong design. Tecton's did an awesome job here. And certainly there's little things we'll look at and tweak, and we'll look at the whole thing and really take it in. And we can make changes, as we mentioned earlier. There's already things we're looking at that might be in the pipeline down the road, but not in a rush. The big thing right now is to get this all together. It's to get a plan for your community and really to get everybody on board. From the guys that use this all the time, the guys and gals, to the people that are going to come visit this, to the administration, everybody right down the road, including all the folks that will be coming into the EOC. God forbid you need it. But when that happens, it's very well designed and set up. Over the first immediate needs we'll get to is trying to take pieces of this and look at it and maybe even use something like 3D type diagrams with something like, we'll use the decon space as an example. In your whole process of decontamination as a firefighter when you come back from a call, the importance of it, use 3D to show that, so kind of like pull it out and really show that and kind of step through it. You can use colors, we can use the hot, warm, cold zone type coloring, which is obviously red, yellow, and green, and place that within the building. So you really get an idea, everyone gets an idea. The folks on the committee, the people that we're trying to get this on board and get that to buy into, looking at this and saying, hey, this is a great facility. It's worth spending the money and putting the effort and the time into this because it protects our firefighters. Everybody knows if your firefighters are safe, your community's gonna be safe. So first and foremost with me is health and safety and wellness. That's something I did a lot of during my career, working on committees with that, worked on labor management committees to try and when we did renovations in Manchester, to try and help pull everything together, all the different pieces, and again, try and get the community support for that. One of the next things I can talk about is we can talk about the engagements and public support. It's so important to build these relationships with your community. I'm not saying you don't have them, I'm just saying we're gonna take it and build it that much stronger. We wanna get the key stakeholders involved, and first and foremost, we wanna sit down with the committee as a whole, once we're on, and try and get everybody's opinions, thoughts, what the direction should be, what you feel it is, what the support is in the community, maybe where it's lacking, and then we can go from there. We can address those concerns, questions, thoughts, develop a clear and concise message. It'll be huge to get a strategic plan put in place that we can use with everybody to try and kind of focus our message, get the same message, and get it out there to everybody. Developing the strong advocacy network and through various committees. I think it'll be important to get out to everybody in the community, get to the seniors, get to your schools, get to your civic associations and groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, anything we can do. We really need to get out there and try and sell this to people. And I don't think it'll be a hard sell, I really don't. I mean, you guys all know your community better than I do, but I know that the fire department is key when you do, particularly when you're fire rescuing EMS, all hazards, it's something that your community buys into. So utilizing a variety of communication channels. We can look at your local newspaper, obviously the cable access, various posters, signs, handouts, flyers, things through the schools, things through your water and or sewer departments. I know there are several water divisions, but as much as we can get them to buy into helping us and we can work with them. And then to set up tours of the existing fire stations. It'll be key for folks to see the condition of the existing fire stations. I'm not saying you guys probably don't already have an open house every year, but this is gonna be something that's on this timeline, which we all know is pretty short, and get those looked at, get people in. Again, it's all part of the buy-in process, to get them to understand why it's so important to build a new fire station. You have a fantastic location, you have a great piece of property there from what we can see. I stopped by there this evening, and I really think that we've got a really strong foundation to get this thing going. So we look forward to being a part of that. So at this point, I think I'll turn it back over to Paul. Thank you.
Just in closing, 150 days. There's a lot to do. We've offered a bit of a roadmap that's on the leave behind that we showed initially of the things that need to be accomplished. And what's really important is participation by your committee to make important decisions. But what's really important is having a project management firm that informs you properly with the pros and cons of the various things so that you can make those informed decisions. And that's where that's what our specialty is. We would be like your highly experienced and trained fellow members to just run through all this stuff and present all of the information that you need in order to be able to make these decisions on time and on target. So, and getting the word out as John was talking about, and we talked about earlier, is really critical. Yogi Berra once said that if people don't want to come to the ballpark, you can't stop them. And it's going to be really important that you get people to go to town meeting and go to an override vote if necessary in order to support the station. And with that, we respectfully request that you hire us for this project. Well, this is what we love to do, and we are ready to start immediately. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. So we do have a set of five questions that we're asking everybody, and so I will start with number one, which is, what do you see as the largest challenge this project faces?
The largest challenge to this project is time. Time is the largest challenge. Being able to accomplish all of these different activities, like I said, establishing the scope of the project in order to be able to get a very accurate cost estimate, which of course is key in developing an all-inclusive project budget, so you know what the cost of the project is going to be. That has to take place, and that has to take place almost immediately, so that the message can get out, to the leading edge, which is going to be your land use boards and so forth around town. So they need to know all of this information before it gets around elsewhere. And working on that and immediately addressing that is key. And we just need to start like right away.
Okay. Number 2, what is your plan to support the town vote, and how does that timeline compare to projects you have worked on recently?
I think I'll jump on that, Paul. Yeah, thank you. Other projects, we've got I should get over here closer to the mic. The other projects that have moved along have been because, again, we've been very good about developing a strategic plan, holding to that plan, making sure that everybody knows that plan, and keeping it going, okay? That's really important, it's key, is getting all that buy-in, but keeping the momentum going. In some ways, that might be a benefit of the short timeline, because we can keep things going so rapidly in that time frame and really be aggressive about how we pursue this. So that's pretty much where we're at. We're going after it with every piece we can, using that plan, getting everybody on board, getting together with town departments, committees, everybody we can to get this all together and to get everybody to understand our plan, because you want everybody on the same page. We want everybody in this community thinking this is a great thing, and that we've got a lot of support. And that buzz, that creates a buzz. Some say over here, over there. Before you know it, everybody's on board and thinking this is a good project. So we look forward to being able to do that with you.
I want to ask Marty to talk about Orange for a moment in regards to town support.
Yes, so like I said, we had quite a task getting to yes in Orange, and like I said, we put a lot of information out there of the consequence of voting no, and we think that made a big difference. And the unique thing about getting yes in Orange was we were finalizing the design in the middle of COVID. And we had a town meeting on the Marha football field. Everybody's sitting on the Marha football field in the middle of COVID, and we explained all of the work we were going to do, and we got to the point where they called the vote, and we saw over 300 people stand up and say yes to their project, and only 6 people said no. And that was an amazing moment to be able to do that in the town of Orange, and to know at that point that they were going to proceed with their new school, and they were going to get a new school. And they have a beautiful new school now, and they're really pleased with it. So the value of getting the positive information out there can't be understated, and we work really hard at doing that.
Okay. Number 3, how do you effectively manage communication and expectations with diverse stakeholders, including contractors, designers, and internal decision makers?
So, there's a lot of meetings that go into planning any major construction project. And our meetings all have an agenda. The agenda contains a list of agenda items. What is the desired outcome? Who are the stakeholders that need to be at the meeting? And then we cover those items and we talk about them until we get to some kind of action item or resolution, and we record that. And then if we need to meet again, we clearly state when we need to meet, who we need to meet with, and what are the topics that need to be discussed, and what are the decisions that need to be made, and how do we get to those decisions. So we don't just meet willy-nilly. It's an organized approach to be sure that we get the right people in the right room at the right time, and followed up by another meeting with another group of people to be sure that we get the answers that we need. And then during the construction project, when we're going forward on a regular basis, we're going to report to you on a regular basis with daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports, as you may require. We'll be very open and transparent about the change order process. We understand how to manage that 100%, and we'll share that information with you, get your feedback on where the finances are on the project on a regular basis, so you know that we are in control with the budget. And lastly, communicating with the contractor to hold their feet to the fire to make sure they stay on schedule, they stay on budget, they give us the right manpower, they give us the right material, and they do everything that we need them to do to give us the best project. Yeah, I'm going to be on the project from day one to the very end. I'll be your day-to-day contact. Guess we forgot to say that.
Okay. Number 4, explain your process for quality control and inspections to ensure project deliverables meet the owner's expectations and specifications.
Okay, the first thing is to learn the specs and the drawings better than the architect, right? So, as a site person, that's my battle. I learn them, and then I walk the site every day. I walk it with the site supervisor, and if we have any issues, we try to work it out there. If we don't get resolved there, we bring it to the engineers and the inspectors, the architect, and then we resolve it there. The whole point I'm trying to make with that is that we don't want it to go on. We're right here in the room right now. Let's resolve it now. I found that always works the best. It's not like, oh, I'll get back to you, this and that. No, we put the pressure on to get the answer now. So that's how I resolve it with the site super and the architect. We also have our testing agents. As you all know, there are many aspects to the engineering of a building that has to be inspected by a third party, not related to anyone else. And so I'm in daily communication with them. When coming to do a rebar, concrete, whatever it is, I'm there and I'm talking to them about it and making sure they're happy, because if I don't get their sign off, nothing, they sign off for the engineer, right? So there's that. And then also, depending on the town, the building department is a big part of the process, right? I really appreciate the building department. I work with them. I really like working with them. They're usually really knowledgeable, and they're signing off on it. It's up to them. So I use it as a great resource. But I walk the site daily. I'm on the site. That's the job. That's my job. I'm on the site all day looking at this stuff, paying attention to it. Hope I answered it.
Okay. Number 5, what type of grants or other funding sources have you been able to secure for a project to offset the cost of a project?
Well, let's just a couple of examples. The public safety facility in Hingham that we're working on right now, we assisted in writing the grant application that secured $415,000 from Plymouth County as part of this ARPA funding that occurred. So we wrote the story about why why that facility should get money from ARPA. So that's one example. We did the same thing in writing to and working through Senator Warren's office to get an earmark in the current federal budget right now for approximately $200,000 to pay for all the audio-visual equipment that's going to be in the training room. We did the same thing with Congressman Lynch and worked out and got into the federal budget right now $850,000 for the station. We're not sure if the federal budget is going to be approved, so we may never, that money may not be realized because of the change in government in Washington. However, we did all of that background work with the town in order to be able to try to obtain that funding. We've just completed an elementary school in Swampscott that is almost net zero. It has ground source heat pumps, or geothermal. It has photovoltaic array going in. It is all electric, and the incentive money that's that Swampscott is getting from National Grid on this project is $2.9 million. In addition to that, the IRA funding for the geothermal for this project, that's coming in the form of a rebate from the federal government, is expected to be 2.1 million. So those are, and we participate wholeheartedly in being able to secure that money. If there's a way to be able to get it, we devote whatever resources there is to get that money, because better to go to Auburn than to go to someplace else, right? So that's something that we participate in a big way. Yeah, those are some examples.
Can I add to that? Sure. I just want to touch on the fire service end of it. There are currently a lot of fire service grants available, but what is out there and what you would hope will be renewed next year would be equipment type grants. So whether it's your SCBA fill station compressor, whether it's Plymavent, it could be things that are being built into the new fire station, could be replacing equipment that's outdated and it's just the right time to do it. Those we have potential to, and we will work with your team and teams in the town to try and obtain some money that way. As far as fire station facility, public safety facility construction, there's not a lot of upfront money right now. That's not to say that it won't happen. It's been talked about in the past 2 years. I believe it's been brought up in Congress, and we certainly hope that they'll bring it up again, but it has not yet passed. So it's been many years since there was fire station money available. But again, kind of piecing things together, trying to get everything we can for you, all the value, all the efficiency, the effectiveness, everything we can, whether it's through grants, through all the work that we do, through all the public and community support that we hope to get for this.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's the end of the list.
Yep. That's the end of our questions that we put together. So thank you for coming in. And very appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
Having us, yeah.
I guess timeline, we're going to try to make a recommendation to town manager tonight.
Okay.
Obviously, the timeline is short, so I think the expectation is before Christmas, there'll be somebody negotiation going on. With the idea of, starting no later than the beginning of the year, right? So.
We're immediately available.
We are,
Okay.
yes.
We look forward to diving into it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go into recess while we have these people break down and take off, and the next ones come in.
It's you? No?
I know.
Yeah, he showed up.
We leave these placemats with you
Dang.
in case you
Hey,
want
No,
where's my
that's-
pen?
to give it to anybody who's not here.
Where's my pen?
I gotta get more for everyone. I only had so many in there. Kevin. You weren't supposed to.
Thank you.
Yeah. that was-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Depends on what your feedback is. If it's good, then If it's bad, it was a different.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get you out of here early, right?
We're back on right now. So, okay, our next candidate in from Rhode Island is RGB Architects, coming in for the for OPM presentation interview.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us. Appreciate your time. I know it's a big committee, and I know you've done this quite a few times so far today. So, excuse my voice; it's breaking down here. So, we'll talk a little bit about tonight about the project that your architect has started, and the process that you're going to be in, and the importance of having an OPM, and why we're better suited for that position than the other OPMs that you've interviewed. Off the bat, we are architects for interior designs and OPMs, all three. So, Tecton, we've actually gone against them, won some, lost some, so we know about them. We know people that work there. We can work alongside them pretty easy. We know what they're thinking as architects. We've done police stations and fire stations in our Rolodex of projects in our 78-year history. I think we're pretty good suited and well suited to do this work. So tonight I have with me John Racine. He leads our OPM division, and I have Monica Hanley next to him. She's our interior designer. And why Monica is here is because she looks at all materials as well, for cost, for scheduling. We're doing a project right now up in LiUNA, for LiUNA in Hopkinton, Mass. It's about $75 million. And we're doing the FF&E package as well, which is a huge component of it. And lead times and the right materials and the right furniture is important to push along. It could ruin the whole schedule. The building's done and you can't have any desks or furniture to go in it. Spoils it a little bit. But anyway, without further ado, I know we have 20 minutes. So we'll talk a little bit about us, our experience, your project, some of the objectives, our OPM process, and then why our team. I just introduced us, so we're made up, John and I are the project executives. I'm a project managing principal rather than CEO. John is also a principal, and he's also a project manager and leads, like I said, that division. He works alongside these four individuals, both with anywhere from 15 years experience to 45 years experience. Our history go back to 1946. We've been doing owner's rep work, as they say before, was cool, back in the 1970s, when they called it owner's rep, back when we had clerk of the works. We call it extended CA now. So we still do some of that work as architects, and we extend it back to extended CA as well. Sustainability-wise, we're on top of the sustainabilities. We were the second one in New England to design a LEED type facility. And net zero type facility. We were the second in New England as well to do that one. That was Newport. Some of the markets we work in is a broad range of markets. And that gives us the ability to understand the types of construction and the issues. We have different groups, and those groups assist with John and his team back and forth, either design reviews, cost estimates, or scheduling. Go ahead, John. Yep.
Thank you for having us tonight. Obviously, you know what your goals and project is about, but we looked into it as well. We really want to communicate that we have an understanding of what you're looking for. We understand that your project has started, or at least Tecton came on around 2018. There's been quite a bit of work back and forth, is my understanding, to come up to the design that you have today, which I got to compliment you. It actually looks really great. Excited about the project. I understand that you've been in this temp building for about, 40 years now? The temp station, as they call it. And I think the team's ready to get out. And we understand that this is going to be a dual headquarters and fire station combination, around 31,000 square feet or so, plus or minus. And we also understand that you have a site already planned out, and it's already gone. It's underway. There's been demo. It's happened already. And there's full budget, hopefully sometime in May 2025 for approval vote. And we're here to assist you to get there. We like to demonstrate that we actually understand fire stations. We understand headquarters. We've shepherded several of them through the process, both from design to construction, approval, and also monitoring. We understand that we like to work with the architect, we like to work with the town and the fire department to understand where does the public enable to come in, where does the private and the company inhabit. We understand that there's a process with equipment coming in, and then there's decontamination areas, and we understand that those go. We want that before you go into your facility and contaminate everything else. So we'd also understand just by the design that you really want a state-of-the-art facility, and we're here obviously to help facilitate that. We represent the owner, we represent the fire department, the town, on getting to that goal. Collaboration with the owner. It's important to understand that we work directly for you. There's no consideration. Well, I can't say consideration, but there's no integration between the contractor, or there's no conflict between the architect and the OPM, or the contractor and the OPM. Our first job, obviously, is to protect the town and to protect the fire department and to make sure that these teams provide you what you're looking for. And in doing that, we need a complete understanding of the project, which we will work with the town and the department to get that, to do that. We'll go over the studies and the schematic design is already done with your team, the fire department, as well as Tecton, and get an understanding how did you get there from here, essentially. Once that's established, we want to make sure that the objectives are achieved. Does the design does it talk to what you want? Does it give you that 75-year building that you're looking for? I know that was part of your proposal or what you're looking for. For us, the schedule is extremely important, so we'll develop a master schedule from start to finish. You're already ahead of the game by bringing on a design team, already ahead of the game by having a schematic design in place. So we'll shepherd you through the design development, CDs, and then put this out to bid for contractor. We'll talk about delivery methods and things of that nature. Is it design bid build? Is it a CM delivery? All those, there's pros and cons of each. And as we understand more about the project, we can steer the project in that direction. Budget is extremely important, obviously. As part of our process, and you'll see this as we go through, is that we provide a budget for the entire project. That would include our fees, for example. That would include the design fees, permitting fees if there are any, anything through DEP or EPA and Mass, any advertising fees, insurance, all that is come together, FF&E items. They come together in the overall budget, and we'll track that throughout the process, throughout each phase of the project, to see how it's tracking. Are there a lot of change requests from the design team? There are a lot of claims and change requests during construction. What's causing these things? And we work with both the design team and the contractor to mitigate those and to reduce those. And then outreach in town. Obviously, this is a vote. We want approval. I think if anyone comes to this facility, as good as it is, I think they would understand that it might be time for a new one, right? So we'd encourage that, and we'd like to help the town communicate to the rest of the town and get full support for this project. That's obviously, we can assist in doing that.
Next one is a collaboration with the design team. So establish effective communication. So first off, you've already had an architect on board. They've already established a relationship with you. Now you're asking the OPM to come back in. So how do we bring out that communication into that whole triangle of services? We have the owner, the OPM, and the architect. So we'd sit down and go through a couple of meetings, some agendas, some of the milestones, some of the setbacks in the project. If you do something from 2018 till now, that 6-year period, how much the budget has changed, the differential in the budget, how have you made those provisions, any other examples of things you can do. Can you do a pad ready site? Put it on pad ready, which means you put it in advance of the design, so you do all the site work first, know where all the bodies are, so to speak, and it limits your change orders. Once those are done, then you can then focus on the building and get better participation from contractors that normally wouldn't go ahead and bid out. So by separating it out, you can actually understand it better, your budget and your budget issues. I'm sure in 2018 when they established the budget, it was very different than it was even today. And how do you deal with that? So we've done several of these things where the budgets have been slammed. The latest one we did was an aviation center for the National Guard for $40 million. They came back and I thought it was $500 a foot. Came out to $800 a foot. So in that case, the federal government, who prints money, came back with another $10 million to substitute that. But that only happens after about a year. So now you got to deal with the inflation and then the difference in cost. So we look at your schedule, understand your schedule. We maintain the owner's construction budget. And then we meet with the budget and time schedule to put a new Gantt chart together to establish what are your milestones in order to make that happen. You're up, John.
Collaboration with the contractor. Obviously, we'll assist the town into bringing on the contractor. This definitely qualifies for Chapter 149 for Mass Bid Laws. We're extremely familiar with that. We can assist the architect in developing their package to provide that. We also will review and do peer reviews, both for both the specs as well as the drawings, to make sure that it does coordinate with Chapter 149, make sure that it does meet your expectations. But bringing on the contractor, we'll want to, once that contractor is on board, we'll want to really establish clear communication. It's like we have a 13-member board. We'll establish, does everyone want to be copied on everything? Are there many, their selected portions or board members that are focused on certain areas? Is there a finance director that we have to respond to or to report to? All those items will be established, and the communication will start out and continue throughout the project. Obviously, we want to make sure the contractor's schedule coincides with the owner's schedule. If we have a contractor or puts out a construction schedule that's 3 or 4 months or 18 months beyond what the owner's looking for, what the town's looking for and expecting, obviously that's an issue. So we'll assist in hatching that out. We'll sit down with the contractor and go through, are there other means, is there a different sequence that can happen? Are there other delivery methods, or are there other products that are available to mitigate the schedule that may go out? So, and also we'll maintain the entire, the project budget throughout the entire project. We want to make sure that we stay within the guidelines, so we want to make sure we stay within the budget and understand if there's any contingency. How do we manage the contingency if there's anything left at the end? Is there something that we can do that can increase that contingency? Are there cost savings as construction goes on? Those items always come up, and we'd love to communicate those to the board and get direction on how you want to proceed.
So next, project administration. So project administration, our job is, I believe there's 13 of you right now, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 12? You can imagine you have 12 different directions, 12 different opinions. Your meetings can be long, misinformation, misdirection, because one wanted one wanted the other. So part of our job is to mediate that, to come up with a solution and spearhead that, and that gets back to the design professionals. They can follow that through. So some of the project administration has to do with developing those communication plan, developing a communication triangle, if you will, of how that communication deciphers down to the rest of the team. Now that doesn't mean that every one of you people aren't important or have a say. It's how it's organized so that they get clear direction. If they don't get clear direction, the end result is money. If they put the wrong design together, if the contractors do it in a different way, they start change ordering you, you can get spin out of control real fast. So part of our job is to develop a project communication tree for that. Next one is to maintain comprehensive project records. So project records these days, we use different databases, Procore or whatnot, that'll use those databases, or even ShareFile. Whatever the database that you all have, or what the architect has, and ultimately what the construction guy or construction partners have during that process. We would organize the photo log and document all the management systems. So in other words, when you go onto a website, on that website you'd have all the information that we put together. We would generate a website. We would formulate the website so that each and every one of you could approach that website and find the latest information coming. we'd set milestone meetings. Those meetings and milestone meetings, is you can imagine 12 people have 12 different schedules. To have the same date for different meetings, we'd set those in advance and set a Gantt chart schedule for that. We'd set the advise the city of project administration matters, any issues that happen during construction, change orders, delay in construction, unforeseen conditions. We'd attend all the owner contractor meetings with the builders. We'd record all the meeting minutes, document the meeting minutes, and distribute it back to everyone here. And we prepare, submit comprehensive monthly project reports. And in those project reports, we'd have an estimate of where you are with your dollars versus how much dollars have been spent versus how much dollars are yet to spend, and how many dollars are on change orders, and how many dollars to complete. And that finalizes the project closeout activities as I'm running out of my breath. Go ahead.
Cost management. Obviously, cost management is critical. We do maintain the overall budget. We monitor the budget, as we mentioned before. We do this on a regular basis. So as part of our, as David alluded to, as part of our monthly report, we're going to have the documentation on what has been spent so far, who's spent it, and if there are any changes. Was it approved? Was it not approved? And what are the reasons why? It's critical that we monitor that as a go. It's always an easy change if a change order comes up at the beginning of the project. The pockets are flush, and it's easy to approve. But we really want to monitor that. We really want to see that, and really take note of it as things go on, because things change very quickly during construction. It could be flush one week, and then the next week, oh my God, we are in a deficit. So obviously we don't want that to happen, and we're not going to let it happen. So we monitor that closely. We also analyze a lot of the claims. There's a lot of times there's so many subconsultants or subcontractors that are out there, subconsultants that are out there, all working on the project. So something of this nature, you may have 50, 100 people, 100 workers out in the field doing work simultaneously. There's a lot of changes that may happen. So we want to make sure that we analyze each claim that comes in. A lot of times it's just a miscommunication. It's like, no, we that's been covered, or that was already dealt with in another location. So we have to monitor that as it goes. It'll be open for your viewing and for your use as time progresses, as the project moves forward. This is an example of one of the sheets that we use. Essentially, we start off by the estimated cost right from the beginning. During the when the design team was putting things together, we'll put that in as first, and then obviously the bid costs, and then it's based on the requisitions that contractors typically install or provide. So it's an easy monitoring tool as things progress. Well, you'll note that the first section is really hard cost construction costs that we monitor. That's basically what comes from the contractor straight up. It'll have potentially some allowances in it. It'll have the steel and the brick and mortar and all of those items. The next part is what we have is soft costs. And soft costs tends to be almost as important as the hard costs, because those are kind of the forgotten pieces. It's the design team's fees, permitting, like I mentioned before, advertising, or costs for attorney costs, for example, if something has to go through for contract review. All those things we put a budget towards it, and we monitor as construction continues. And obviously at the bottom, we've got contingencies that might be involved, FF&E items that are also included. All those items are tracked, and this is what's provided every update, every time we would meet.
This was a great slide John did on public safety building, North Providence, Rhode Island. So $30 million building. They had Google money that they had to spend, and that's all they had was $30 million. And it was an old site with a old bus junkyard, so it was a polluted site. John managed to convince the client to go pad ready, to understand what the site restrictions are, how much it costs, and then come up with a bid, an actual contract to do that, and then put out another bid for a building. It saved the town over $2 million. So what this is an example of that, where he would meet with you monthly to go over all the stats and where you are, so you can make those decision-making processes early on. We always tell you to get a wish list together, what you want, what you can't afford, what you do want. So when the money comes up, you say you're 80% done with construction, you can start spending some of that contingency. 90%, you can spend a little bit more. So we kind of regulate and manage that process.
All right. is always how many cop cars or how many apparatus equipment can you
Right.
buy? You know, what do we have left?
Fire and police, they only
That was-
understood cop cars and fire trucks.
That was the contingency
So
cost.
this next slide, the movement, oh, go ahead, John. That's yours. I got the next one.
Construction schedule management, as important as the budget, obviously. Time is money. I know that's a cliche statement, but it really is. It does resonate. We always develop a base overall master schedule. That master schedule will start from the day that you guys bring us on board, essentially, as the crew brings us on board, all the way to the end of closeout. How long does it take the design team to provide the CSDs? How long does it take them to do design development, construction documents? Is it a 6 or 8 week period for bidding? It'll depend on the number of filed sub-bids, but you're going to have 6 to 8 weeks at least on this project. And then basic construction duration. So all those items get put into an overall project master schedule. And then those are compared to as actual times as we go. It's how long did it actually take the design team to do it? Can we make up any time in the DD development set to make up for any schematic design that may have taken longer? If not, then where can we do it in construction? Or is it okay for the town to extend it an extra week or two on the project, or a month, or whatever? Is there a time deadline? So we do know that there's a critical time, obviously, for the vote. So that design period, obviously, is very important, and we'll put the design team to task to make sure that they achieve that. And again, we are familiar with Tecton. They're a great team, so you have a very solid design team that you're working with, and I'd like to think that we can enhance that as well. We'll make recommendations on some of the long lead time items. If you remember the sad days of COVID, any mechanical equipment or any switch gear or anything of that nature was extremely extended. I mean, we were talking 50 weeks for switch gear that normally would have taken 8 to 10. So we take a look at that. We have the pulse on the what's going on out there, and we would integrate that into the year master schedule. And I'm sure the team from Shaman are extremely aware of that whole process. And then obviously on part of our monthly report, we would have, where a status of where the each team member is at. This is just an example of early on. So this was the first master schedule that we did on this project early on during schematic design, and then when we end up starting to put into more detailed elements. And what this also gives us an idea of how the delivery method may help. Does it make sense to do it? Well, mass is really tough to do a design build, but does it make sense to do design build? Does it make sense to split the project into a pad ready project? This kind of gives us a bit of a forecast, obviously, what would work out for everyone.
This next is move management. Like I said before, we're not just architects. We have licensed contractors that work with us. We have forensic architects, interior designers. And we can use that gamut of knowledge and information towards your move management process. So move management is big, because once you get your nice, shiny new fire station, the question is going to be, how much does the furniture cost? What's the lead time? You want to add anything to this?
Yes, we're going through that experience right now with LiUNA's headquarters, and being in front of the schedule for furniture, because we know they are expecting to have their first meeting, their first conference call, and we want to make sure that furniture is on schedule. And understanding that working with this type of contractors or this type of vendors is a very different monster. And yes, so understanding that is important. So not just every OPM has the asset that we have available in-house.
So Monica has connections with actually FF&E companies. She can get wholesale prices. She can talk to distributors. She can actually make it happen. A couple of times up in LiUNA, like I said, up in Hopkinton, there was a question about delay because of how long it would take to get the beds in at one point, the desks in.
Yes.
She made a few contacts, calls, and made it happen. So that's knowing out in front what's going on. And then she uses that similar schedule. Her and John caucus. We caucus back with you as a committee. We'll let you know what the next steps are.
Mhm.
So why RGB, Dave?
Okay. So we're locally recognized experts in what we do. Fire stations, we do a lot of them. But we also, like I said, have in-house different expertises, and we work around. So we're not a bunch of builders that are making that next step to become OPMs. We're all licensed professionals. We're also builders, and we talk and we communicate with each other. And that brings a special type of team that we've been committed to. A couple of projects I want to bring to light is the Keystone Education Collaborative that John's working on right now. He came in at a late time. The owner had a really horrible budget. They had an architect on board. The architect couldn't get a structural engineer, couldn't get motivated to go. I'm happy to say the whole project's underway. It's almost complete. They got a builder now on board and doing construction, right?
We did, yeah.
So John and his team recognized what the deficits were in the team that they had and built a team around that. He actually wrote some of the specifications, got some of the engineers or the architects in play. A spec writer, I believe, you hired. So we know those kind of contacts. So if that's what you're lacking, or if that's what becomes a condition of your schedule, then we'll plug that hole. We do it a collaborative approach. Again, we use you as a committee. We also use the architect and also the builder. We associate with different and various builders. We probably have more projects in our office, design build, from relationships we have with builders. They like working with us. Our drawings and documents are friendly. We know how construction works. We know that it's not always as perfect as the drawing will say it is, and you work with the builder and the subcontractors to assure that happens. And expertise in fire administration, we've just done one, and we hopefully have another one that's locked up in one socket, and we look forward to working with you guys on this job. That's it. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
It's about
We do have,
22 minutes. Sorry about that.
We do have a set of 5 questions we're asking everybody. It's just to keep everything on a level playing field and open and transparent. But so we'll get into that right now. What do you see as the largest challenge this project faces?
The largest challenge?
Challenge, yeah.
I think getting, from my perspective, I think the architect you have is fine. I think the environment for bidding is going to be terrific for construction. You won't have any issues finding bidders. You'll have plenty of those. I'm not sure what the town's appetite is for the fire department. I'm hoping that it's positive. That may be the toughest piece, considering you guys have been here for this long and it was temporary. But if there's support from the town, I don't see much for holding you back. I mean, you're ahead of the game. You've got your design team already set. You've got your property already set. You've already done demo. I mean, you're miles ahead of most other entities.
I would fill in and say, I believe your biggest challenge is you've been here since 2018. And let's think back. What's the same thing that it was in 2018 that it is today, 6 years later? Nothing. We don't function the same. We don't live the same. We don't think the same. A lot of things have changed in the last 6 years. In 2018, the cost of construction for this type of facility was $225 to $275 a foot. Now they're ranging from $700 to $900, depending on what the use is on the inside. That change has a huge effect on what you can afford and what the process is. That's your biggest challenge, is to get over that hurdle and to understand that and be able to deliver that message to the town people that understand the importance of this facility versus the cost and the difference in that time frame. And we can help with that. And I think that's your biggest challenge, is overcome that, because people just can't understand, what happened to $600 a foot, $700 a foot. It's gone. Why? What happened? How did that happen? So that would be my 2 cents on that question.
More of an optimist, but yeah.
I'm a realist, though. You want to attack it.
He's right on. Yeah. You're right on. Really, the budgets in general have been, there's definitely a trend that's shown that as things are kind of evening out, but they're not reducing. Everyone has a hope that construction actually drops, but it never does. It goes up, plateaus, and then goes up. It just keeps going. It'll never be cheaper than today.
My 35 years of experience, I've done over 20 bond campaigns, public support campaigns. People have a short memory, but people have a great memory. If you put in a fire station up and you can only afford half of it, and you tell them, well, we're going to build the other half 2 years from now, they're going to say, you just built that fire station. We don't want another fire station. We have other needs in town. Look at the school we're in. Look at the police station we're in. Look at the needs of the town. So you got to hit them right now. You got to stage the importance, and you got to analyze what the importance are. And then you got to phase it in a way where they understand why it is what it is. And then ultimately, if you have a fixed budget, you can only afford so much, then you want to stick with the envelope. Because you can always do capital projects in the future once you have that building shell up. And that would be our goal, is to get you that so you don't have to go back and plead again and wait another 6 years when the price is $1,200 a foot.
Okay. All right, thank you. What is your plan to support the town vote, and how does that timeline compare with projects you've worked on recently?
So as I said earlier, John runs this group, and we don't go after a project unless we have an opening for that project. John, I believe that Dave Green was on there, and Dave Green's just coming off a job right now. John has an opening for this project. And also there's Christian. He was a younger person on that project. So we have an opening for this project.
Are you referring to staffing, or are you referring to supporting the agenda in terms of the vote?
Yeah,
Getting the vote out.
supporting the agenda, and then the
website.
timeline compared to
Timeline.
recent projects that you've had. That
Yeah, there's a vote in May.
Yeah, usually they with the selectmen. Usually, like we just did Canton Library 2 years ago. So we were hired to do a roof replacement, and we were also historic architects, and it turned into this big historic type project. So it tripled in cost. So they were nervous that the town would say, we can't afford that, no, for the whole thing. So we ended up giving small meetings to the town on weekends in anticipation of what was going to happen for that big capital campaign that night for the selectmen. And then we did a presentation. And then like Donahue, I don't know if some of you young guys probably don't know who Donahue is, we went around with a mic around the area and let the people ask questions, let it vet out of them. And then we answer the questions similar to they are tonight. That's the best thing you can do, is the public interactions. The people who really care about the project will show up that night. The people who want the project will always vote yes. The people who don't want the project will always vote no. What you want is the ones that are on the fence. And you want to guide those, and you want to direct them of why you're doing this important project and why it's important. You want to do an analysis of what your travel time is to a fire, how you appropriate. Is this going to save ultimate money by opening one station? Maybe you close a couple other stations, and that'll save money. You unveil all the issues of this fire station and open it up so they can talk to you, you talk back to them. And they were successful in Canton.
how do you effectively manage communication and expectations with diverse stakeholders, including contractors, designers, and internal decision makers?
I think.
You do a good job.
Oh yeah, open communication for us is key. So we find, as I was mentioning earlier, if there's a subcommittee or something of that nature, we want to identify that earlier as possible, and then it's direct day-to-day communications. Especially any major contractor or any major project, you're speaking to the project manager, the assistant project manager, the super on a daily basis. We would assign, which a lot of times tends to be me, we assign a devoted one person or two person to that project, depending on the size, or three, or whatever is necessary. But there's always a point person from RGB that obviously answers the questions, answers the phone, prods things along. We always find that obviously if we jump on the issue right away, try to resolve it as quickly as possible through communication, then things don't slow down and bog the project down. Once the project starts bogging down, then prices rise, and it's just not as. It's like anything else. You want it to keep moving smoothly.
I could say something that in Massachusetts you have file subbid, which is actually a deterrent. File subbid means that you could theoretically get a contractor who's on board with a sub that he's never worked with. You could have multiple subs. They're married together. So just think about that. We all get in this room. You guys all know each other. You don't know us. Now we're going to go off and build a shed. We don't even know you. We don't know your capabilities. You don't know our capabilities. And that's the way you start in Massachusetts. So we look at the commonalities. And they all have commonalities. We all do. They're businessmen, businesswomen. They're builders. They want to get the thing done. Time is money, as John alluded to before. And we separate those two and we put the commonalities together and we communicate with them effectively. So everyone's on board at the same time. I've done a lot of school projects where they had to get in on time. I've done IPD projects where everyone's on board, everyone shares the interest at the end. But there's one commonality of all those projects, and it's communication, effective communication. So, no joking, I was going to buy John one of those headsets that Dunkin' Donuts has. Because he's always in the office, and he's always on that phone. Because he's the great communicator, he gets along with everyone. We bring him out to a meeting, they all love him, he gets along with people. That's one of his gifts. And he would do that for you guys as well.
In terms of Thanks, Dave. In terms of,
You're getting that for Christmas, Joe.
that's all I need. Yeah, I need more communication devices. But in terms of documents, obviously we have a central location, a share file that will open up that has subdivisions and subfolders and things that have access to easy links. Most major contractors, anyone who's going to be bidding on this project, would probably use Procore or another cloud-based sharing software. So the communication tools are there. We certainly know how to use them, and we certainly encourage it. We'll do all the reviews for submittals, RFIs, and things. As OPMs, we'll monitor that as it goes. I'll make sure that the design team's answering them quickly enough. If they're not, then what's the problem? What is, is there a major issue? How are we resolving it? And also right down to the punch list. We'll do punch lists on the Procore now. It is a very powerful tool. Maybe sometimes a little too powerful. It kind of runs the project sometimes. But obviously, any cloud base or it's a lot of electronic communication so that we have records of everything that's being brought forth. And then our meetings with you, obviously, with the board, if that's the case. Updates. You can do weekly updates. You can do bi-weekly updates. We do field reports every time we go out to visit. Even though we require the design team to do that, you'll also get it from us. So that's a lot of that. All becomes part of our communication package.
Explain your process for quality control and inspections to ensure project deliverables meet the owner's specifications.
Yeah, I can answer that one. That's where I was going right after this. That's good question. So, one of the benefits, again, if we were up here is just builders. I'm not friends at Showman. But if we're just builders, we see things in the eyes of builders, which isn't always bad. But you also have to see things in the eyes of a designer, because those are the intents. So you can't back away from a bad detail. There's no builder that's going to make a bad detail a good detail without taking advantage of that, either in a change order or a scheduled creep. So we would look at that. Like, for example, a fire station. The big thing with a fire station is transference of fumes from the engines when they start up. And I know you get the Plimo vents that could attach to the trucks and they all blow out, but there's still, you want to make sure it's positively pressured from anywhere in the administration area out. The best way to do that is the separation. You can put it right next to it. We'd look at the plans, is it next to it? And we don't want it next to it. We want it separated. The second thing is lighting controls. A big thing with lighting controls. If you're asking these ladies and gentlemen to sleep all night, and the second the alarm clock goes off, and I don't know about any of you guys, but when that alarm clock goes out at 2 a.m. because you got to catch a flight, it's the most uncomfortable thing there is. But they endure it every day. So what we do in our facilities is we soften it up with lights. The lights go on soft. There's different colors for different factions of the fire department. We'll ensure that all that stuff is done appropriately. So what you get at the end of the day is an actual design fire station with more than one set of eyes looking at it. Not to mention constructability. I don't know if you want to add something to that.
Yeah, on construction, all of our field team have construction backgrounds. So they're licensed contractors. Supervisor, actually. So they monitor construction. I go out in the field as well, look at it for design and as well as construction levels. We always have our drawings, obviously the design team's drawings and the spec. So we monitor those as things go on. If we find something that doesn't meet the spec, first thing we do is call the design team. It's like, hey, we've got a slip here that says 4,000 psi, and it's supposed to be 5,000 psi concrete. Not that you have it, but is that okay with you? Is that going to happen? We're not going to let them put it down unless it's okay. So things of that nature come up a lot. Air entrainment and concrete is always something that gets lost. And then also, obviously, there's Chapter 17 of the code that requires special inspections. So we'll work with the contractor to make sure that the special inspections are being done. And that those test results are being submitted to the entire team. We want to make sure that we're getting that. So those are all things.
The last thing that I like to do is submittals. Submittals can be the death of you. Submittals from an architect's perspective is a submittal is any kind of substitution or a product that you require in Division 1 of your specification to submit. So let's say roof coping is your submittal, and you specified a Hickman product, which is a low gauge, great product. The lead time on a Hickman product is about 14 to 16 weeks. And if they don't submit that submittal in time, they're gonna come to you and they're gonna say, well, you either don't open up the fire station, or I got this alternative. Not as good as a Hickman, but just as good, and you'll never see it. And about 5 years from now, when an oil cans and it rips up and your roof during a cold storm shreds back and it pulls off of your building and you see this ripple, everyone's gonna forget why that happened. What happened because you have to set that milestone. Those shop drawings are important to the whole schedule of things. We'll ensure that those shop drawings within the first 60 days of construction are reviewed and submitted. We'll put that in the specification. Any substitutions after that day will not be allowed. Unless you have the original spec, you don't even have to submit a shop drawing. So there's a benefit for the subcontractors because that costs money for them. If they have to submit the same thing, then we don't have to look at that. We already have a spec for that. So we look at all those things. John recognizes what these issues are and he goes through the schedule. These are the things that give you a lesser facility at the end. That after doing a number of these things, you say, boy, lessons learned, I won't do that again. We'll try to help you with that.
What types of grants or other funding sources have you been able to secure for a project to help offset costs for the project?
So I know you're going to talk about the FDA. I got 1, 2, 3 going on right now. Fall River Library, Fall River EMS Station, and New Bedford. We're doing all the courthouse restoration work in Taunton. All those 3 survive on federal grants, ARPA grants, and also other grants that are local to the state of Massachusetts. So we'll develop and assist the architect in promoting and providing the information to get those grants on time. A lot of times the architects have to submit sketches, but also cost estimates. What I like to do is I like to put a little package together because the grant person that decides it is just strictly going by a schedule and numbers. So you want to make it warmer to them, to see the importance of it, to sell it, to show it. And we've been pretty successful. We've gotten all the grants for the EMS, we've gotten all the grants for the library in Fall River, and we just got approved for another grant. If anyone knows Taunton Courthouse, it's a courthouse that had nothing done to it for 165 years. And it's 6 stories tall, and all the mortar was taken out of it just over time. So it was just held there by gravity. So we've been taking it apart little by little and building it back, and there's nothing holding the thing together.
And it's a beautiful building.
Very
It's a
beautiful.
Gorgeous historic
And the
building.
people were, resistant on the commission to put the money because they couldn't see the problem. It wasn't until we showed them the video and I brought them up there with the staging did they get frightened. One of those pounds of granite is 8,500 pounds. If it falls from 6 stories, it'll penetrate any roof system, and it'll kill people. We're in court. So I know you probably have attorneys you'd like to put in the courtroom and kill them, right? But it's still a courtroom. So that's the biggest push of right now is doing that. So we've assisted just recently those 3 grants and been successful in that.
All right. That takes us through our 5 basic questions. So,
That's my questions.
Do you have any information on the FDA when you worked for the USDA?
Actually, we did 3 major projects using USDA rural development funding. That was one was I think $12 or $13 million low interest loan to it has to be a rural. There are qualifications as to the size of the community, but it has to be a rural community. But they love these types of projects, any municipal or community improvements and things of that nature. We've been very successful. We've done a series of HUD based improvements or grants and things of that nature. They're all based about the same. They all are looking for the same kind of information. They take some writing. There's a schematic design piece portion of it, schedule, basic schedule, cost estimates, and really a description of need. So we certainly have that format and certainly have done it several times.
So just in closing, I want to say that ARPA funds are ending in just about a week away. We've had, I guess, the greatness of having a lot of money to spend on various projects for the last 4 years. Now it's coming to roost. Now there's going to be a vacuum. What happens to interest rates? What happens to the cost? You're in a blue state. Does that have any effect on the federal government right now? Or the conditions that exist? All those things will affect some of the funding. But one great thing about Massachusetts that I know of is they always pitched in and they helped each other, especially for a good cause for a fire station. So if people understand that when they get old, and we all get old, we're going to need a rescue, we're going to need a fire engine. Hopefully we don't need a fire engine, but they usually come with the rescue. You'll need those first responders. And if you give them a facility and a station that they're proud of, they'll effectively do their job better than they're doing it even now. And if you broadcast that up to them, I guarantee it'll be effective, and they'll vote for this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Go, we can, okay, so we're coming out of recess now and going back to live broadcast. So we're back out of recess and with our next candidate for CHA for our interview for OPM. You want to take over?
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name's Tom Gazunas. I'll be your project director. First of all, I want to start by saying Amanda Sawyer, who is our Boston team leader, apologized for not being here. Unfortunately, her dad had a medical issue today, and she's at the hospital with him, but she apologizes for not being here and the no notice and not attending. But she is definitely a part of the team. She leads us. She leads the Boston office. So I'll be the project director. As I said, I've been with CHA for just over 9 years. Prior to that, I was the public safety commissioner for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And prior to that, I was a town engineer and building commissioner for the town of Belmont. So I've sat on that side of the table. I've helped to build projects as the owner and also now as the OPM, obviously. Done the negotiations, done all of that. So I know and understand exactly what you are all doing. Joe?
Joe Lynch, I'll be the project manager on the project, your main point of contact from beginning through end. Just joined CHA in the last year. Prior to that, I spent about 13 years on the general contracting side before making the move over to the ownership side. I'm also a licensed builder. Tommy?
And I'm Tommy Gazunas. I would be serving as your assistant project manager. I've been with CHA a little over 3.5 years now. I have my degree in construction management. I've had experience working on a variety of building types from, police stations, fire, DPWs, town halls, libraries. So I'd really be working cohesively with the project team. I like to pride myself on being the squeaky wheel because, that's the one that gets the grease. So really helping to keep the team moving, keep the, project deliverables at the front of our minds, and really making sure we're keeping the team focused and on track. And I'll turn it back to Tom Sr. to discuss a little bit more about what we have to offer from our office.
And there's no relationship. So within our office, CHA, we're the OPM group of a much larger engineering and architecture firm. And that gives us the ability to literally pick up the phone and make the call, get additional information, get a second opinion, all of that. Like, we don't have to go to a consultant. We can do it all the time, and we do. We quite honestly do it all the time. As I said, we have the engineering and architecture, we have cost estimate. Our cost estimators not only do cost estimates for CHA projects, they actually do independent cost estimates for other architectural firms that, we're not involved with, and sometimes, for our competitor OPM firms that are out there. And they keep a very large database of all of the costs. But again, it gives us the ability, if there's something that we're looking at in the design phase and say, how about if we did this? We pick up the phone, get a cost on it right away. Same thing with the inevitable change orders that come up through the life of the project. Something doesn't look right, we have the ability to just pick up the phone or walk across the hallway to the cost estimating department. We're literally on the same floor in Boston, and just ask, what do you see, and does this look right? Does this make sense? That's all in-house. We also, and I say when we get to construction, not if, because there is going to be a positive vote, and we will get to construction, we have on-site representatives. Our on-site representatives, again, are not consultants. They're full-time employees of ours. And when we get there, depending on the time frame, and we'll then make the decision and determination and on which on-site rep that will be. You'll absolutely see their resume, have the ability to interview them, meet with them, and make your informed decision about them as well. Next slide. Fire stations. We've done a lot of them. We understand them. I'm also a member of the Urban Search and Rescue Team for Massachusetts as well. It's a FEMA team. So totally understand the conditions that you're going into and what it's all about, and the ability to come back into that hot zone, the need to get all of that gear off and not bring it into the bunk area where you're going to be living, eating, sleeping. So we make sure, again, we're not your designer, but we're going to make sure that the things are done right. Fire stations are also unique in that they're a municipal building. It's going to be, a meeting space. It's going to be a workspace. It's going to be a sleeping space. It's used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The building does not get a rest like a typical municipal building does. It's the nature of what it is. So we're going to make sure that what you get and what goes into that building is robust. It's going to be maintainable. I'm not saying that firefighters are going to abuse the building. To the contrary, it's their home. They're living in there. They're going to take care of it. But it's 7 days a week, every single day, and not under the greatest conditions. Let's be real. You're coming back after, a horrible fire or a horrible incident, and it takes special care and special being, and we're going to make sure that that happens as we move forward with it. Next one, please.
All right, understanding the project and the site. Good news is you guys already have a site. That's half the battle already taken care of. You already have demo underway or almost done. So on our end, it's getting involved, seeing where you left the site, getting it ready, working with the consultants and the team, getting ready for construction. Another thing we notice is while it's a great location, it's also in a very busy spot, right off a major highway and working on a major street. So we would want to get involved with the general contractor, the team, the town, highway departments, anyone necessary to communicate, get all this out front to make sure when it does happen, it's not getting anyone by surprise. You're not getting a million phone calls, and there's a plan in place. We'll work with everyone in each department to make sure we do that right. We'll look at night work, off-hour shifts for tie downs, any certain deliveries that need to be taking place, and make sure that we're working with the general contractor, all the different third parties, and everyone needed to make sure that's all facilitated correctly. So while it's fantastic that you guys already have a site and a major amount of work's already done and been underway, it's where we see we can get involved, help out, and get it to the next major step and get ready for construction. And that brings us into our approach. It all starts with design. Again, you already have a conceptual design that's been preliminary approved, which is fantastic. It looks like the program's been in place to meet a lot of the needs and desires that Tom just alluded to, which is fantastic. As we get into design now, what we're really looking for is establishing a schedule with the design team to work backwards from to make sure we're hitting all of our milestones, whether it's for presentations, permitting, or whatever is needed for construction, as well as working our way down through the budget and pre-quals, getting everything and everyone ready, making sure that that program is meeting what you need, that all breakouts are there, that everything is set up so we can make decisions and work through and make sure you guys are getting everything you need, which will then roll into pre-con.
Yep, and then we're gonna, we'll continue right through, contractor pre-qualification, get right into bidding an award after a careful qualification process. Start to do some detailed design reviews, constructability reviews. That's when we'll have an opportunity to bring in our on-site representative. These people are those who are on-site regularly on construction projects. They've seen things go together. They've seen issues in the field on past projects of design issues that maybe we had a detail that doesn't quite work. So we're going to get them involved early in the design process before we get to construction so that they're taking a look at those plans, making sure that the flows through the building work with the departments and reviewing with the committees, and then ultimately making sure that we can build this building. We'll be doing contract negotiations and awards, doing some early permitting and looking at permitting with the design team and contractor, and then ultimately be working to refine those schedules and budgets that Joe alluded to. And then we get into the fun stuff where it's construction.
Which it will happen, as Tom alluded to. You will get that yes vote, but that's really where we get very involved. We are from the beginning, but even more so of the hands-on, having our OSR, on-site representative, on site, not only just to monitor and work alongside the GC, but to be looking at a lot of the different details with all the different players and all the different consultants and components involved in this project, making sure everything's accounted for, making sure everything's coordinated for, and that's where we can really use our expertise to get ahead of items, foresee them, set up a schedule, look at third-party inspections, look at the different quality control, and get ahead of all that, make sure we're hitting all your wants and needs, and make sure we're doing what we need to in order to hit our dates and keep moving. Once we get through that, a lot of it is a big piece on our end is the cash flow analysis and getting it ready. Obviously, we're getting ready for a vote. We got to show everyone that what we are looking to build is good value and what's going to be there. With that, they also want to know when the money's coming, where it's going, and all that. So as we get it set up, we're going to show you for the entirety of the project a cash flow analysis. They'll show you what we're expecting to be paid each month, what's there, and what's going to be allocated, so we can share that, communicate that, inform and educate everyone, as well as have ourselves set up so everyone knows what's coming, everything's there, and as we're going through, it's more of working through the process and checking off versus reacting. With that, closing out.
And then we'll get into closeout, but closeout really does not start at the end of construction. Closeout starts at the beginning of the project. You know, the specs are going to be written so that we have proper requirements for O&M manuals, operation and maintenance manuals for these systems. We're going to make sure that, you know, the punch list isn't something that starts once the contractor stops work, but that it's being developed throughout, and the architect is regularly looking at the progress of the building as we get to that completion. And as areas are completed, we're tracking and monitoring that progress, so that these things aren't go-backs and redos and rework of things, but we're finishing the building properly in the first go-around. You know, it really comes down to commissioning the building. Once we get all the systems tied in and powered up, we're going to make sure that it's operating, and you know, you can't have issues with the fire department once they're in the building. So you have to flush that out now and work through the issues that may happen, put the building through different stress scenarios, hot days, cold days, run the systems and test everything so that by the time it's turned over, not only do you have a building that works, but you have a building that you know how to operate too. You know, the systems these days are extremely complex for good reason. You know, they're efficient, but they ultimately need user input as well, and we'll help work with the design team, with the contractor, and with you all to make sure that you're getting a facility that you can operate and work out of on day one. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joe to discuss a little bit about some community outreach.
Yes, as we said, it's all about getting to that yes vote, and you guys have already done a lot of work to get to where you are right now. As it states on your website, as it's seen, it's showing the community the value in the project, that it's worth the money that they're putting up and putting forward. So our main goal, again, is to inform and to educate the community, whether that's through social media, postings, working with you and your teams on signage throughout the town, whatever it may be that way. But then also, how do we get there? We really do believe in workshops and working side by side, both internally and externally. Meaning, yes, we want to work with the community, we want to work with the people, but we also want to work with all of you. There's multiple different departments going into this building, and it's all great that everyone gets their own space, but we want to work with each one to understand what are their wants, what are their needs, and what's going to get there. Also, to kind of Tommy's point, you have to operate the building, the maintenance piece of it, and how we're going to maintain it and keep it clean, and how it's going to be a long-lasting building and achieve that 75 years you guys are looking for. Right? We need to work with them to understand what is it going to take to efficiently and cleanly run and operate this place. So that's getting the input from everyone involved. And as I said, we're here to share all of that. There's many different forms of doing so nowadays, which is fantastic. And it would be at your discretion, working with the design team and everyone else, communicating that to the community and showing them what this is really getting them.
And with that, I want to talk a little bit about, you know, staying within a project budget and budgeting overall. Budget is one of the foundational building blocks of a project. We'll work with the committee early on in the process to, you know, develop and understand your required program, and work with the design team to make sure that that program is being put into the design. And then we'll work to design to come up with and understand what it's going to take to build this building. But not only the hard costs, we're also going to look into the soft costs. We'll be looking at any sub-consultant fees, look at any temporary fit-out space we may need to look into, look at any type of funding opportunities that we can have to offset these costs. But it's really about a detailed and designed cost that is accurate and really represents the program that's required to build the building. We don't want to be going above and beyond, but we also need to account for any unforeseen conditions too. We know you have a site, but we don't know how much exploration has been done underneath, so we'll need to also build in a contingency to account for any unforeseen conditions underground. And with that, I also want to talk a little bit schedule, another bookend to the project, help keeping the foundation of the project going. We've developed a preliminary project schedule here, outlining the process where we're at now, starting with OPM selection. But the schedule really does go hand in hand with the budget. We know you have a town meeting in May, so we'll work diligently through early phases of design so that we can get a accurate conceptual budget at that point. And as Joe alluded, we're going to have that heavy community engagement throughout the entire design process. It's not going to stop once we get to the town meeting. It'll continue right through, keeping them abreast on the things that were the design as it's developing. You know, it's going to be in a prominent location on town, so where the building is and how it looks is going to be important to the community members, at least so that they feel that they're involved in the project, have a say, have an opportunity to voice their concerns at those visioning sessions, and then we can go and research their concerns and come back to them with accurate answers. After town meeting and a vote, we'll get further into design, really hone in on developing that design, finalizing it, and getting really good construction documents that we can then go out to bid with. Then we'll be going through the bidding process, onboarding a contractor, and then we'll get into the fun stuff, get in the ground and construction, and work to give you all the building that you need. With that, I want to turn it over to the team to discuss a couple case studies of some recent success stories. So first is another project that Joe's working on.
Yeah, so this is one that's actively under construction right now. Steel's actually just wrapping up. It's very similar to this one. I already alluded to it. It's logistically very similar. Off a major highway, off a main street with heavy construction operations. There was a lot of coordination up front with the town and with everyone to get it set up. So heavy trucking operations, concrete pours, steel deliveries, water tie-ins, all the little stuff you kind of forget about that can really cause headaches and hiccups for people's days. We had to really get ahead of all that and get the approval beforehand. We set deadlines and protocols for the GC and for all the subcontractors to give us enough notice for everything to make sure that that was all put in place. We got all the approvals we need, whether it's street sign, communication, as we already talked about, goes back to that community engagement. It all works hand in hand. So this was a big one that way where we were bottlenecking the exit to a highway. So we didn't want to hear about it every morning. We didn't want to get those calls, and we didn't want to be answering those calls. So that was a big effort there. Another piece, which is similar to the project you have proposed, is there was a future building in this project that we have put in place. And when looking at that, it ties back to the cost estimation piece Tommy was looking at. You understand you're going to need future space, but you're already going and trying to get approval for X amount of money. So how can we efficiently set you up so that you have all the infrastructure in place you need for future building without spending all the major money up front that maybe you don't want to go for right now, but can figure out and get that reallocated later. So how do we do that? We looked at what was needed and what was there. We got all the conduits for all the main power, primaries, and secondaries run. We got conduits run for future data, future EV, future potential solar, all of that run. Why? Because that was pipe that we could just put in place, get set down, get the site set up, and it was going to avoid us having to tear up slabs, tarmac, drive lanes, and everything else later on. So what we did was we established what items needed to take place that would be cost efficient now, and then have it set up so it could be cost efficiently built later on. There was a fair amount of effort to it and what we're looking at there, but it gives you the flexibility that you're looking for and what you need. So I think that's an area based on our expertise and what we've done. We can get you guys set up so that you can use this building again. We'll say the 75 years, but continue to roll it, update it, and get it to meet all the new efficiency codes and sustainability standards that have been set across the industry.
Thanks, Jim. Next station I want to briefly talk about is Charlton. We're building a substation for the Charlton Fire Department. Small Station 2 for them, but it's on school property with a direct residential abutter. Just to the kind of, as you're looking at this, on the left-hand side is a single-family home. They've been used to looking at a big vacant grass field all their time. So a lot of public outreach, a lot of visioning sessions with them, a lot of discussions with them and with the school department to make sure that, because this drive that you see is actually an exit, I'll call it, off of the entrance to the middle school on the same property. So again, a lot of community input, a lot of hand-holding to make sure, and we're in the bidding, it's actually on the street for bidding right now. But got overwhelming support at town meeting and overwhelming voter turnout and approval for the project. YS. We know fire stations. We work with communities to make sure that you all get, you're going to be a partner with us. We are a partner with you. As I said, I've sat on that side of the table. I've understood, and I do understand what it takes to get it done and what it means for the community. You don't go into this lightly. We don't go into it lightly. We will be there. I'll hand out my business card later on, and you'll all have my cell phone number. My cell phone is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It really, truly is. My wife gets pretty aggravated, but it's on all the time. And I answer the call no matter when it comes in and what it's all about. If I don't answer it immediately, you'll get a text from me that says, I'll call you right back. And I do. We all do. It's how we operate. It's how we work. We understand what it takes. We understand that this project is the most important project for you now and maybe even in your lifetime. Who knows if you'll ever be on another building committee project. Hopefully you will, because you'll love this one. It's going to go so smoothly. It'll be a piece of cake. But we're here to help. We want to help. We've been here, done it, and we understand what it takes. That's our formal presentation.
Okay.
So we have a set of 5 standard questions
Sure.
that we're asking everybody. So I will just jump right into those. So first question is, what do you see as the largest challenge this project faces?
So, first question I have back is, we know you demoed the building that was there, the steakhouse. Is the site clean now? I looks like there's still some debris on it, but has it been? Is the dirt clean? Are there any underground utilities, or were there any storage tanks?
Has been tested.
Has it been tested?
There's no storage tanks
Okay.
on it. There was a rumor that there was a veterinary clinic there before the restaurant. Other than that, we believe the site's clean, but
Okay.
it has not been 100%
Okay.
tested.
Okay. So that's the biggest challenge, is making sure that we have a good, clean site to start with. Having the building demoed, we recommend that all the time, is, if you can get an early site package out and get a lot of those unknowns off of the table, early on, takes the doubt out, gets you a harder, better price.
And it's something we're accustomed to, especially
Yeah.
in Massachusetts. Things have constantly been built on all sorts of bad areas and bad that. To Tom's point, we want to get ahead of it. It's not what's the biggest concern, it's what's the biggest challenge. And that's a challenge we can overcome. So it's how do we get there and setting up those next steps and taking it where from you guys have left it.
Number 2, what is your plan to support the town vote, and how does that timeline compare to projects you've worked on recently?
I'll start. Your schedule is very aggressive. It's doable, but it's aggressive. So we've got to start, right after New Year's, if not before, getting things in place and getting design team. Are you going to go with the designer that you had? I see, in the proposal or in your RFQ, it indicates that we would go through designer selection. Do you really need to?
No, I don't believe so. I think,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's great, because that helps a lot with giving me a lot more comfort in saying we can achieve the schedule, because if we had to start with a designer from day one, it's going to be extremely tough. But that's good news. So, did I answer your question, or do you have more?
Well, I think the other part of the question is,
Yeah.
how you would support the town vote that needs to happen.
So I think it goes
yeah.
back to the community outreach that Joe spoke a little bit about. But, that slide that we presented, and we can go back through, you can flip back through it. There's a list of some potential options there, but we can't sit on this side of the table and tell you what works for the community of Auburn. We'll sit down with you all and understand and ask you the questions on how people in the community receive information best. And if you don't know, then we're happy to explore the options together and provide options. We can do visioning sessions. We can do weekly memos. We can do, you know, short bursts on social media with our marketing team that help give bits of information on what's going on, what the project team is doing internally, what the schematic and conceptual designs are looking like, what the early budgets are starting to look like, and present that out to the community to help make sure they're abreast of the information. It's really a matter of, if they don't know what they're voting on, then how can they vote in favor of it? But if we get ahead of it, bring them on board early, and if they feel like they're a part of the process and are a part of the process, like we said, we've had other communities where community members are able to come to these visioning sessions, come to these workshops, and ask questions. You know, we think that area in town has a high water table. Can you build in that area? So we'll go back and take the necessary samples, take the necessary readings, go back and do our due diligence, and come back at the next visioning session or workshop and say, last month we heard 10 questions. Here are your 10 answers, and what else do you have? But it's really a matter of engaging and keeping the community up to date and involved in the project so that they feel that we're not doing things in a vacuum, because that's not the way we operate, and it doesn't accomplish anything if we come to you all in the 11th hour and say, this is what we're doing. We don't live in this community, but we're happy to work with you all and understand the best way to operate in your community.
Is Auburn open town meeting, or
It's represented.
it's represented? Oh, so then we can do like precinct caucuses and precinct meetings to have a captured audience and inform those town meeting members. It's actually a whole lot easier than an open town meeting to inform.
Number 3, how do you effectively manage communication and expectations with diverse stakeholders, including contractors, designers, and internal decision makers?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can go. Later, if you flip further back in the PowerPoint, we have a couple extra slides that we like to leave in for filler. One of them is a proactive risk management. But we have a few tools that we've developed and regularly use at CHA, but the one I'll talk to right now is the RACI chart. We use it on all of our projects. RACI is an acronym, stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consulted, and Informed. So we'll take a first pass. We'll put all the project stakeholders across the top of the spreadsheet. You know, from you all, the design team, the contractor once we get there. And we're able to run down a list of representative items that may need to be considered. Project controls,
It's this
change
sheet.
orders.
Should look like this.
Maybe I can, there you go.
Yeah, there it is.
Green.
Okay.
So you're able to, we will do a first pass on who we think should be the action item, the person that's giving us the final decision, who we're just going to speak to, or who we're just going to update on these decisions that are being made. It's a living, breathing document. Like I said, we'll take a first pass at it, but it'll get passed around to the entire team, and everybody will have their own input on what they want. You know, the chief may want to be included on all emails. He may find that he's getting inundated and it's too much. And may want to be, I don't want to be the final decision maker because I'm being a bottleneck. So it's an opportunity for us to openly understand how everybody wants to be involved in the project. It allows you all to give us the input on what your level of involvement should be and who we can go to. But if things aren't working, then we can modify and change throughout.
And this changes as we move through the phases of the project. As we move through, get into the next phase, we develop a new RACI chart because the players change and their responsibilities change as we move it along.
Number 4, explain your process for quality control and inspections to ensure project deliverables meet the owner's specifications.
Absolutely. So that gets back to working alongside with our on-site representative, like we talked about, going through establishing those specs with the design team, understanding and creating, identifying what all third-party inspections are going to be needed, when they're going to be needed, setting up a schedule, working backwards. Also, do any of those hold up next steps or any other pieces of construction? So we look at it holistically. Again, our on-site reps are full-time employees with us that we've all worked with continuously. So we've gone through this process a million times. We're not bringing in a third party or another consultant that we're just working with. We know construction. We've been on the construction side, the town side, the design side. So for us, it's we know typically from looking at a set of plans and specs what needs to be tested. So now let's make it specific to this job. Let's set up a schedule, and let's make sure ourselves, the general contractors, subcontractors, and everyone else involved are on the same page.
We also use, again, it's one of these
Rick.
tools that are here, Raken, which is a third-party software, but it enables our on-site representatives using either an iPad or their cell phone to live as they're walking through the field, put information right into their report and photographs into the report. Comes out as a PDF. All of you, none of you, however many of you want in the community, get a copy of that report on a daily basis. A lot of people say, can you just hold them until Friday? We don't want them every day. Others absolutely want it every single day. They want to see what's happening, pretty much real time, and gives us the ability to take the photograph, put some annotations right under each of the photographs, so there's that constant documentation of how the project went together, what was there. It's a living as-built, if you will, as we move forward.
And number 5, what types of grants or other funding sources have you been able to secure for a project to offset the cost of a project?
So we have been successful with ARPA dollars and CARES, but those appear to be drying up, and who knows what the future will bring as far as those types of grants, but certainly grants through the utility companies as well. Solar, geothermal, there's been some huge grants and incentives that have been out there and that are available. All electric is another option, and we'll explore all of these and go through the cost benefit analysis. There's upfront costs that have to be brought in. There's long-term maintenance costs that need to be evaluated. We had a case where it appeared at first blush that geothermal was going to be far more expensive. But with the grants that were available, the geothermal actually came in less money than putting in the heating plant because of the incentives that were available. So we'll explore all of those with you and fight hard to make sure you get every dollar you can.
So that's the end of our questions. So I think timeline-wise, we intend to make our recommendations tonight, send them to the town manager. So I would expect, we have to give our top 3 and our preferred, and then we will start with the top of the list, and I would assume that will start before Christmas.
Okay.
So because as you know, the timeline is short, so we would want to have somebody on board for the beginning of the new year.
Excellent.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And we are going to go into a recess now. For All right, we're coming out of recess. We're back out of recess, and we have Colliers is our next OPM presentation and interview. And you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you so much. On behalf of Colliers project leaders and the team here in front of you tonight, thank you so much for the opportunity to interview for the OPM position for this very exciting project. We would love to be your OPM for the project. We hope that shows in our presentation tonight. Quick introduction of each of the team members here. My name's Phil Palumbo. I'm a project director with Colliers. Been with the company for 12 years now, serving as an OPM for public projects just like this one. And then before Colliers, for another 8 years working in the design and general construction industries, I would be your project director. Tony?
Yes, Tony DeLuzio, Colliers Project Leaders. I've been specializing in public safety projects, both design and OPM services for the past 30 years, and I would love to be part of your team.
Angela?
Hi, I'm Angela Campbell. I'm from Colliers. I've been doing public work for about 25 years now, and really looking forward to hearing more about your project.
Luis?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Luis Rodriguez, and I have about 10 years of experience. I've come from the design world, so I've been working on K through 12 and higher educational spaces for the last 6 years, and I'm a construction rep.
Tao?
Tao Win, Senior Analyst with Colliers, and I'll be helping with the financial monitoring report.
And Sarah?
Sarah Maston, I'm the director for our Commissioning and Energy Services Group. I have about 30 years of experience both on the design side and on the commissioning side for HVAC and electrical plumbing systems.
Thank you, guys. So 2 main points. Main points of contact for the project would be myself and Angela, 1, and then 2, having 6 people on this team and here tonight isn't just for show. We make sure we collaborate with our in-house resources to be the best OPM we can for our clients. So all 6 of us will be touching this project in some shape or fashion. So we like to open up the dialogue kind of in the initial slides to kind of calm our nerves, 1, but 2, we know if we're going to be the best OPM we can be for you all, we shouldn't be coming in with preconceived notions of how the project should go, left or right, up or down. We understand there's considerations and challenges that you all have developed through your efforts thus far on this project. So we like to kind of quickly open it up to you all. Tao, I got a marker here to make sure I'm taking notes.
Yes.
We would love to hear from you guys, and it real quick and dirty, based off of all your effort to date on the project, hubbub around town, what do you guys foresee as the challenges linked to this project?
I think we can just give the standard history of where we're at. I don't think we can really.
So we got an upcoming town meeting. Are we concerned about town support?
I think what I can say to that is to really basically regurgitate some of the information that's either in the RFQ or also publicly available. So this effort started 2018 from recommendation from the master plan that facilities needed improvement, had gone through a public safety building committee looking at a combined
master plan,
a combined fire and police development. That committee had challenges with COVID and site location for a centralized facility for the town. And so this fall, essentially this summer, the decision was made to just break off and do a new fire headquarters. And to keep the existing police station for now as is, and to keep the current fire headquarters building as a substation, Station 2, and turn this facility over to the school that it's attached to.
Sure.
And then we have been working since the early fall or late summer, on that. A site became available to us. That money was approved by town meeting to purchase the location and to demo the location. Demolition is complete, or more or less complete at this point, and we are looking, now at OPM interview to, basically timeline. We have to get both town meeting approval as well as a vote of the general residents to approve a budget in order for this to move forward.
Sure.
So that's
perfect.
You can derive your
No.
challenges from that.
All good. And we've watched some of the building committee meetings, so yeah, aware of all that. Let me ask you, during the acquisition, was any kind of phase one environmental site assessment done of the property? I understand.
There was of the building and stuff in terms of
hazmat
stuff
Sure.
inside, and the abatement's been done. In terms of the entire site itself, no.
Okay,
There's
so
still
maybe
some
that's something that's looked at. Any subsurface exploration? Okay.
Just what's
Cool.
going on right now with the demolition and
Awesome. All right. Well,
foundations coming out.
we appreciate that dialogue. I know it's unorthodox, but again, calm our nerves and learn a little bit about the project where it stands now. So again, you're interviewing with Collier's project leaders, but truthfully, the team you're interviewing with started with a company that was called Strategic Building Solutions. It was created back in 1996 with the sole purpose of being an owner's project management for towns and cities just like you all. It was in 2014 where the commercial brokerage firm Colliers International saw an opening in the OPM industry, reached out to Strategic Building Solutions, acquired a majority share of Strategic Building Solutions. But what we do every day, how we do it, the care level we put into what we do, the in-house training we do with our staff, none of that's changed. Company logo changed, company name changed, and that's it. So, we bust our hump and take a lot of pride in making sure we're the best OPM we can be for our clients, and that's been consistent since 1996. So I want to kind of make sure it's clear. You're not going to get this big corporate America OPM firm if you hire us. You're not going to be having an OPM that is coming in with any preconceived notions of how the project should go. We're going to be eyes wide open, ears wide open, making sure we're the best OPM we can for you all. We have an office location in Agawam, office location in Boston. We got one in Providence, Rhode Island. But truthfully, us OPMs, if we're not at a client meeting or on site these days, generally speaking, we're remote. I live right in Paxton, so I'm like 18 minutes away. I was just at Staples this morning printing for this interview. Tal lives in Spencer. Sarah lives in Hudson. So pretty local team. You don't have to worry about us having challenges getting to in-person meetings and whatnot. And then lower part of the slide is just a slimmed up list of other municipalities we helped out being their OPM and made sure all their project goals were met. And we would love to see Auburn on this list one day. So on this slide, Tony and I wanted to step through 4 similar projects at a high level. Upper left of the slide is the Hadley Fire Substation project located in Hadley, Massachusetts. That project was completed in 2020. Total project budget on that one was right around $4 million. I know we missed those pre-COVID numbers. Building size, smaller substation, 5,500 square feet. So before the project, before they hired OPM, they saw a need within the north side of town to slim down their response time to issues that occurred in that area of town. So the substation project got developed to capture that area of town. When they connected with us and contracted with us, they already had a project site in mind, already town owned. The idea was we're in the north part of town with this property. Let's abate, knock down the existing building, do ground up, and be on our way. So off we went with the early stages of design, but did some geotechnical soil exploration, and come to find out it was a past fill site, so a lot of unsuitable material. And based off of that, and based off of the elevation the new building needed to sit, the geotech engineer realized that this was going to have to be a preload site, meaning there was going to be drastic settlement concerns if we just went and constructed a new building on this site. So what you have to do is you have to excavate all the unsuitable material, put down these steel plates, backfill on top of that with structural fill up to a 8 to 10 foot height, and let the settlement occur before you start building on top of it. So, and you got to let it sit there for anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So it was going to kill the schedule, it was going to kill the budget. We quickly pivoted. A farmer down the street was gracious enough to sell a portion of his farmland to the town for the project, and we were able to design and construct the project just down the street, on time, on budget, and at a high quality level. Tony?
Sure. Thanks, Phil. A couple of notable projects for me. Hudson Fire Station headquarters several years ago as OPM. They moved out of Station 1 headquarters downtown Hudson, built the Hudson headquarters that you see there. Ashby was most recently completed station. That was a small fire station. We added a police station onto that, totaling about 21,000 square feet. You see the new tower rising up behind that building, so it was part of a regional communication project with a local town, a couple local towns So it was a new tower, new communication center as well in that facility. And then most notably, Worcester's Franklin Street Station, site of the coal storage fire. That was with my previous employer, which I was actually in charge of design and architecture. So I spent a number of years managing design and architecture for public safety, as well as the OPM side of projects. So I've seen where you've been at, where you're headed. I've seen the projects from both sides, and I can certainly help on the OPM side in representing you and the town in your future endeavors and the challenges that you're going to have moving forward. And that brings us to, you know, what are the challenges, right? Every project has similar ones, and I see on your website, you know, kind of frequently asked questions. Well, all of the projects have some woven concerns, regardless of the town, even regardless of whether it's a public safety or fire station. Getting your conceptual design aligned with your budget, aligned with your schedule, is something that you're going to hear a lot from Colliers. Scope, quality, schedule, budget, right? We got to keep those things aligned. They have to be at the forefront of our mind in every issue that comes up. So you're taking care of the abatement and the building demolition. That's great. Let's get a nice clean site. Let's make sure it's buildable. Let's make sure we don't have some of the challenging site constraints that Phil spoke about. Let's get our budget aligned. Community outreach is huge on every project. I think we all learned a lot from our side. We had a lot of projects going through budget and community outreach during COVID, whether it's now, you know, live streaming, Facebook Live, fireside chats, open meeting law, hybrid meetings. We're running a number of those in various programs and outreach processes throughout all our projects, getting you to May 2025 town meeting. That's a big challenge, and it's a big goal for this project. So we want to make sure we've got everything lined up. We want to make sure our public information meetings, we're hitting them, we're giving the public the correct, accurate, and timely information so that we not only get a good quality vote, but you're building confidence. Confidence the public has in you that the project is being well managed, well run, that you're watching out for their best interest as well as that of the project and the firefighters, and that we're bringing hopefully a high degree of leadership to your project.
Thanks, Tony. Angela?
Yeah, so this just talks a little bit about what we're doing day to day. I would be your contact person. At least a minimum of once a week you would hear from me, sometimes daily, depending on where the project is in the process. This outlines just how involved we are in the budget management along with schedule. It's something we try and align every single week. Every time we talk to you, we're bringing the budget into alignment along with the schedule, making sure everyone's at all the meetings that need to be there, that, you know, require these important decisions to be made. We will keep you involved as much as you want or as little. We can give you high-level overview of the project, or you can be as involved as you want to be. I was thinking about a project that I had done with Tony, and he may or may not remember this, but we had a large project for a city, and one of the executives was fairly new to the process and wanted to be involved in our reconciliation when we reconcile all the various cost estimates. It's a 5 or 6 hour process. It's long, it's involved, and she wanted to be a part of it. And we said, yeah, absolutely, sit in, we'll walk you through it. She learned an incredible amount. We're happy to have you involved as much or as little as you want. That's our job. And in terms of, you know, a bid strategy, we know you're already working behind the scenes trying to get the budget into alignment. I'm pretty sure you have a budget number in mind, and you're already strategizing about how to phase or work in a potential next phase of the project. And we're really adept at that. We're constantly strategizing along with you to try and figure out the best way to bring the budget number into alignment. And then, of course, schedule. that's one of the most important pieces, making sure the project stays on schedule, on time, no matter what phase of the project. And that's a constant update, that's a constant discussion we have with all the engineers, architects, all the various consultants, along with you. And Tal and Sarah can talk a little bit more about budget management and how we manage cost.
Sure. So just a little bit on that last slide, it talked a little bit about design reviews. And so from a technical standpoint, one of the things that our team provides is those design reviews at each phase of the project. So one of the things that we, that the analysis has been shown for fire stations is that firefighters can often face or have a higher cancer risk because of the carcinogens that they encounter through what their job is. A really good MEP or HVAC design can help mitigate some of those risks, making sure that we have proper ventilation, that we have certain areas where where some of the gear is stored is negatively pressured to some of the other places that are positively pressured. So those are some of the discussions that we can have early on, so we can make sure that the design is really the best that it can be. And then from a sustainability standpoint, looking at what Auburn's goals are, one of the things that we help as far as the budgeting and the cost analysis goes, is looking at the different types of systems that are available. A lot of times we've worked with engineers where they'll say, okay, well the standard gas-fired boilers and the chillers are going to run this, and then we have geothermal, which is typically more expensive. But the things that we take into account is the fact that there are many different hybrid solutions in between. So it doesn't have to be the standard. Like I said, gas-fired fossil fuel system, or and it doesn't have to be geothermal. That there's hybrid opportunities there that can make your systems greener than maybe some of the existing systems that you have. But as part of this life cycle cost analysis, what we look at is other incentives that are available, either funds through the the Inflation Reduction Act, other utilities, rebates that are included. So we include all of what we call free money in this life cycle cost analysis, and so we can really look at the end of the day, not just at first costs or not just lower maintenance costs, but what is truly the best system for your fire station.
Sarah and Tao.
And talk a little bit about project controls and how we bring a lot of value during this portion of the slide deck. I help facilitate the estimate reconciliation. I know we're going to talk about a lot about costs and how we manage our budget, and that happens during the design phase and making sure that we have a really tight budget during budget development, and that's what I carry out through the design phase, making sure that we're always course correcting when we need to. In terms of what we're doing through design, and I know you guys are going through a few different options, this is a great way to help avoid scope creep and making sure that we're checking every cost, every quantity, and doing really in-depth comparisons. And we love to invite you to any of those meetings. Those are super helpful, a lot of information. And what comes out of that, Phil will always bring out, is value management. And people always talk about, what is value. This is just for helping us course correct any budget constraints that we come across. Nothing is always taken out. We can always bring it back in. And we always talk about making sure that we're keeping the goal in mind. And that brings us to how we finish out our project in terms of cash flow, making sure that we're spending the right amount of money, appropriating the right funds during the appropriate times. I like to say that, on top of all these analyses, we're tracking your burn rate, which is super important because we're tracking all of your invoicing, your contracts, your purchase orders, making sure that we're catching all of these expenses, and we want to make sure that we're spending money to have a building. If we're not spending enough, we're not getting the services we need. And I just hope that we work closely as a team, and we're doing a lot of catch-throughs through reconciliations in terms of costs and expenses. You'll see on the screen we have a couple of templates on how we share our information. The top is a cash flow that will help you through your fiscal constraints, making sure we're appropriating appropriate monies. And the bottom is a sample estimate reconciliation. I provide these analyses at every design phase, and it helps you make the appropriate decisions as we move on to the next phase. Thank you.
Luis?
If we're fortunate, I will be the construction rep on this project. Essentially, I will be overseeing the day-to-day operation, so you will be seeing me pretty much periodically throughout the week. And what I would be doing is focusing on walking through the site, photographing and documenting and ensuring materials and also certain trades are making progress as well. Any issues that may arise in terms of T&Ms, reviewing change orders, and also providing monthly reports as well. The quality assurance aspect that I would look at is also the testing. So every project has to go through testing, whether it's for elevators, curtain wall, or any other testing for this project as well. That might be an oversight. And managing the schedule is just pretty much, maintaining that we hit our milestones, making sure that we're running our weekly owner, architect, and contractor meetings, meeting minutes, and ensuring that we keep the conversation in the project transparent, and that you guys are constantly in the know.
Thanks, Luis. Angela?
So yeah, this is where we start wrapping up the project. This is the exciting part where we start implementing the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It's the final phase. It's the move-in process. You all have full-time jobs. You don't have the time to deal with this minutia, and this is where we come in. We manage all the planning for this phase of the project for your furniture and equipment as part of the move-in. And we handle the procurement for you, which is really time-intensive. Most towns and cities don't have the ability to manage that large of a procurement process. And certainly all the coordination that has to go on with actually moving in everyone and making sure everything is in its place where it should be, everything's accounted for. And this is where we get to wrap up the project with a nice, neat bow and hand it over to you as the final phase of the project. We have a really rigorous closeout phase. Again, really important phase of the project. A lot of behind the scenes that most people don't see. It's a daily effort to really close out a project properly. The training that goes involved, that's involved in terms of the end users being able to operate all the equipment and understand is a huge piece of it. Working with the CM or GC to get all the O&M manuals and warranties in place. Again, we make sure that's handed over to you as the owner so that you're ready to take over the building and have the ownership. And then finally the commissioning, which is where Sarah comes in. That piece is huge. Making sure all the systems, your building management system, all of those really expensive, important pieces of the building are properly functioning. That's a huge piece of the closeout phase that we're involved with every step of the way.
Thanks, Angela. So to close things out, why we think we're the right OPM for the project. For the past 28 years, we've been serving as an OPM for towns and cities, so plenty of experience with building committees and select boards and town administrators, town councils. So we'd be bringing that competency to the table. With that similar project experience, we know this isn't going to be our building, it's going to be your building. So our main focus is protecting Auburn's best interests, whatever that looks like. That's why we got to listen and adapt accordingly to what's best for this project. Proven savings, we guarantee you will have savings if you hire us to be your OPM on your project. Whether it's through the value management process during design, making sure we have the most competitive bidding environment during the bidding phase, or whether it's through change order management during construction, you will see savings if you hire us. Multi-discipline team, so in-house engineers, commissioning department, registered architects, engineers. Again, we make sure we use them so we can be the best OPM for our clients. and a bunch of Massachusetts public building experience. We know about the Massachusetts building laws, procurement laws, making sure we're setting up the bidding process to avoid any bid protests so that project can get kicked off in a smooth manner. So again, we'd love to be your OPM. We appreciate your time tonight, and I look forward to the Q&A. Thank you.
So we have 5 standard questions we've been asking everybody. So I'll just dive right in. So question number 1, what do you see as the largest challenge this project faces?
Sure. I'll start, and if anybody wants to jump in. So out of the gate, you know, getting town approval at town meetings always the big milestone, right? So a lot of effort making sure we're getting, like Tony mentioned, accurate info, consistent info out to the community. The last thing we want is a community to feel like we've been kind of working behind the scenes in the dark. We want them to feel like we've been super transparent. We've given them an opportunity to hear from us, an opportunity to speak to us, and we've done the best we can to answer and resolve any concerns they had. And here's the project. Here's what we're seeing for budget numbers to make sure we got a budget that can afford this project come bid time, and see where it goes at town meeting. That's the best foot forward you can put out there. I brought up a soil concern that happened on a fire substation project. You know, having a good understanding of what you got underneath grade is always a good thing. So that's something we'd want to look at. I understand Chuck's restaurant there. I don't know what they had underground for any fuel tanks or whatever it might be, but we would want to do a geotechnical exploration earlier on in design just to make sure we had an understanding if there were concerns relative to environmental concerns or just kind of unsuitable soils and whatnot. And then from there, it's just, you know, us doing our job, managing the design team to make sure in the event the project does get approved, we're hitting our marks with the design phase, making sure we're going out to bid when we say we're going to, managing that contractor pre-qual process, and all that stuff that comes with all these publicly funded projects. Tony, anybody, did I miss anything?
I would just add schedule. You know, schedule is not everyone's friend right now in the market and in the construction industry. You know, sooner we can hit our marks, the sooner we can get out to the bid market. You know, escalation continues to rise year after year, so any kind of time delays are not our friend, and they're certainly not your friend from the standpoint of budget control. So we need to set our marks and we need to hit them on a regular basis.
Yeah, so on the schedule we created, we have kind of an assumption text box at the bottom of it. Thank you for bringing up schedule. So on projects like this that, you know, generally speaking, a building of this size, it'll take a competent GC, I don't know, somewhere a little under a year to erect it and have it more or less ready to go for system startup and so on. With the lead time that is currently out there for electrical switchgear, it's anywhere from a year to a year and 3 months or so. A project like this might warrant us doing a owner purchase, a pre-purchase of the switchgear. So meaning during the design phase, the town of Auburn would purchase the switchgear to make sure it's here in time for installation during the construction phase. So thank you for bringing up schedule.
Second question, what is your plan to support the town vote? And how does that timeline compare to projects you've worked on recently?
Right, so in terms of our services to get the town vote, it would be whatever we got to do to help develop budget, help develop schedule, and present that budget and schedule accurately to the community, whether it's community forums, assisting the town with getting that info on the project website, community surveys. So on the placemat that we provided, that double-sided 11 by 17 sheet, there's a quick little snapshot of a community survey we did for a school project. So got a lot of experience with putting together community surveys that we can kind of get out on the town website, building project website. If in the event we got to make sure we're on record seeking information from the community, how they feel about the project, any comments or concerns they have. So we would be full bore with you from now till May to make sure we got a majority yes vote at town meeting. And then the second part was schedule. So, you know, if you guys procure an OPM in the month of December, we got January, February, and March to go through, in the event the fees there to do it, a schematic design effort. We understand conceptual design-wise from watching the November building committee meeting, it seems like you got a design you like. So the idea is develop that at a schematic design level, but that way you're understanding, generally speaking, finishes, systems, so that the cost estimate that you do during that schematic design phase is as well informed as it can be. You don't have it too bloated with design contingency and unknowns. So we foresee that schedule as realistic and achievable, and achievable to develop a budget that can be presented at a early May town meeting.
Third question, how do you effectively manage communication and expectations with diverse stakeholders, including contractors, designers, and internal decision makers?
Sure. Firm but fair is a motto we like to use. So out of the gate, our job is to protect Auburn's interests. So whether it's trying to resolve an issue with a designer, or trying to get through an issue with a general contractor, our job is to protect your interests. So leading into those issues, we got to make sure contract-wise, we have contract terms that are going to protect your best interests, whether it's a owner-architect contract or owner-GC contract. So that's kind of step one. And then from there, when I talk about being firm but fair, everybody's got to comply with their contract terms. So, that's the most respectful and polite we can be with any other vendor we're procuring services from, right? So you signed up and this was the contract terms, you need to comply with them. But obviously there's plenty of scenarios that occur where there's got to be some give and take. And the idea is we're always going to be transparent with you all and make sure you all know what we know. And so that when we get into the stage of trying to negotiate and resolve an issue, that we're all on the same page and we all feel good about like what direction we're going to go with that resolution to that issue.
Number 4, explain your process for quality control and inspections to ensure project deliverables meet the owner's specifications.
Yep. So Sarah, you want to talk about design reviews, and then Luis, you can talk about.
So as I mentioned earlier, we like to get in front of this early on, right? So if we can make sure that through the design review process, and we're going to review those at schematics, at design development, as well as construction phase, is that there's no surprises, really. So we're going to kind of, like I said, continue to look at things, make sure that they're meeting your expectations as far as design performance, and then also from a maintainability standpoint. We found that if equipment is not accessible, it's not maintainable, and you could be 5 years down the road and be having ventilation concerns because nobody's been able to change the filters because they can't get to the air handling unit. So we're looking at those design reviews as not only another set of technical eyes on what the design team is proposing, but also, again, looking at it, protecting your best interests is making sure that equipment is accessible and maintainable. And then throughout the construction process, we pretty much also we're going to be on site. We're going to be assisted with by Louise, and we're going to be looking at the technical aspects of what those systems, the installs look like, that the design details are being followed. Piping is done correctly, ductwork is being done correctly. Again, because basically then what happens is once walls go up or ceilings come in, people tend to forget that that's where the equipment is. So if there's people on your staff that are going to be maintaining those systems, we really encourage them to walk the site with us, to know where things are, so that like I said, when ceilings go in, we'll often put labels on the grids so that people know where that kind of equipment is. So we're pretty much from day one looking at the quality and the installation details of all the MEP systems.
And in keeping with that, the coordination of construction with testing and inspection for the various trades that are on site throughout each phase, from the beginning, when the concrete is poured to when the frame is being erected on site. Coordinating with every sub, and also with every testing agency, if applicable, throughout the project, ensuring that it adheres to the specifications that we have, also the drawing set that is to be provided at the end of construction documentation. With that, I follow the on-site drawings to ensure that each one meets the submittals, and also that every RFI is answered throughout the process, ensuring that there is full transparency and that everybody is accountable for their scope of work.
And then the last question, what types of grants or other funding sources have you been able to secure for a project to offset the cost of the project?
Sure. So Tal mentioned, Sarah mentioned, so the IRA program, so we're targeting, I want to say, somewhere around $2 million for a elementary school project we're doing Maynard. So because they're doing a geothermal system. So if this project were to go geothermal, we would target the IRA program. They mentioned utility rebates, so through Mass Saves, you would get those rebates for this elementary school I brought up. I think it's over $1 million for that one. So we would jump on setting up a meeting with the utility departments during design to make sure we kind of understood what design parameters we would have to target for that. Mass EVIP, it's electrical vehicle charging station rebate. So per code, we're probably going to have a couple electrical spaces, vehicle charging spaces. So we'll make sure we get a grant for that. And honestly, we have a template that we use that we kind of adopted from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, but it's applicable for any publicly funded project in the state. And it's essentially a rebate checklist that we use on all our projects. So if it's if a rebate or incentive program is applicable to the project, we're going to chase it for you. And we'll update you on what it looks like, what the requirements are, and make sure design-wise, if we feel comfortable with making those design decisions, we're going to go after that rebate.
That's the end of the questions. So just to give you an update on the timeline, we're going to make our recommendation to the town manager tonight. So we've got a little bit of work after you're done. And then we have to submit our top 3 as well as our most preferred. And then the expectation would be that he would be reaching out to the most preferred before Christmas with the idea that we get something as soon as possible. So,
Great. Great. Really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
We're going to go into recess just for a minute. All right, just finishing up now that we've had our 7 presentations and interviews. You all have your evaluation sheets with the 5 questions answered, plus the 2 questions on the back in terms of their presentation and their submitted materials. So afterwards, we'll tabulate all those based on the points that you put down there, and we'll make the top 3 will be passed on to town manager for his consideration to try to contract with him. So we did have one final agenda item that we're talking about. If there's any other discussions that people want to to mention? Any feelings or whatever about what we've done so far with these people? Now's the time, if there's anything.
I can share the reference checks.
Oh, that's right.
Everyone's
Thank you.
interested in that. So what I did was last night I emailed 2 references, sometimes 3 from each company. I'll tell you why I chose 3 for a couple of them shortly. But emailed them all last night, asked them pretty much the same exact email, copy and paste, with changes obviously to their name, and then called them all today. And so out of the 15 that I called today, 11 either answered or returned my call. Mostly all positive. There were a few negative feedbacks within that, so I'll share that. I created a table that I sent to the chair and the vice chair, as well as Chief Coleman, that simply lists the firm. It lists reference 1, reference 2, reference 3, and then I wrote a yes or no, depending on if their feedback was positive. I wrote a yes. If their feedback was not positive, I wrote a no. There were a few that, asked not to get into details, so respecting their request, put that in there. So I'll walk you through the different firms. So CMS, they had 2 references get back to me. One was positive. One was not positive. So they're the ones that had the Hyannis Fire Station on their project experience. Greenfield, the city of Greenfield as well. And Dudley was the other one. Dudley didn't get back to me today. So between Hyannis and Greenfield, one of them had a really positive experience a little ways ago, and then the other one not so positive, related to really the move-in process on their end. They felt the team wasn't on the ball with that, and they didn't feel like the team there was on their side. All right. Colliers, who we just had, so I reached out to Northborough, and then they're also in the early stages at the Worcester South Fire Station. Both chiefs there had nothing but excellent things to say about the team. They know they're early on in the process, but they did feel like the Colliers team was part of their group, part of their team advocating for them in the committee throughout the design process so far. So good feedback for Colliers. Lero Hill, the one that we interviewed today. They did I think they mentioned during their interview today, the Hingham Fire Station, and then Town of Orange. They did a feasibility study for the town, as well as I think they did the elementary school for them as well. Both had positive feedback, so nothing really to report there. No complaints from either of them. Town of Orange really liked working with them on the feasibility study. Thought they did a great job for coming up with the content there. CHA and left field, I think most of you have deducted what has happened to the project team from CHA. Seeing them and left field have the same references for Northbridge and for Millbury. So you can see in their project teams, several members that previously worked for CHA left and joined left field. So that was who we met with last night. And Joe Sullivan, I believe, was the project director, the one that was going to be the point of contact for the OPM on this side. So between those 2 towns, Millbury and Northbridge, both had the same exact feedback, that they had a great experience with their project team. So they really had nothing but great things to say about Joe and Alyssa, who was another member of the project team that went to left field. When I asked them specifically about CHA, they really had nothing to say because they were so appreciative of Joe and his team, right? One interesting feedback between the 2 of them was they were a little concerned about the financial reporting of the firms. There were a couple trip-ups during their side where maybe the budgets weren't aligned as they were going through the requisition process. So it was feedback I thought worth sharing. I did reach out Town of Bridgewater, also, the CHA, didn't find any, I tried to reach out to a third reference between CHA and Left Field, something that, where the project team wasn't overlapping. Town of Bridgewater had good things to say about the team, but they were concerned with the turnover that was happening between the teams. So they are going through kind of the pain process of that, but they did say the team is working through that. But they were having, you know, some experiences there. And then Left Field, the Billerica Fire Station, reached out to them. This had nothing to do with the proposed project team that they have on for our station. But they said the Left Field team did great. They dug into the details. Nothing to report other than they did a great job. So that was good to hear. P3, I reached out to 3 references. I got one out of office and one of them with a message to call to book your dream vacation. So I'm assuming that reference didn't pan out. Otherwise, it's a great bribing portion. And then RGB Architects, I think was the first firm we interviewed today. I reached out to the North Providence Mayor's Office. They did the fire station there a whiles back. And then the LIUNA training facility, so I wasn't able to get a hold of LIUNA, that's the laborers union. But the North Providence team had, you know, great things to say, nothing earth-shattering on their end. They said it was a long time ago, but nothing crossed their mind as to why it would be a bad experience, so thumbs up from those guys. And that was it.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, discussions for this evening? Okay. I did put on here, we got a tentative meeting for January 6th, put it as a placeholder. Hopefully we'll have an OPM on board by then, and we'll be meeting with everybody to kind of get the teams together, but we'll see. Watch your emails. And I think other than that, just make sure you give us your evaluation sheets before you leave, so we can tabulate them all and pass them on to town hall. And other than that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make sure you have your name on it, please, so
Yep.
that we can tabulate it.
Can I just ask
Should
one
have
question?
7 of them.
It came up a few times about the geotech report for the site. And that's normally handled through the civil engineer and the structural engineer. I don't know if Tecton has ordered one or is planning on ordering one. I think that it should be something done soon.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, it's
It's common that they would. I think they were more getting at if the town went ahead and did it already on their own.
Through the chair, Tecton's been looking to do that. They were just waiting to find out for sure that that was gonna be our site. That's on their list.
It does sound like that's something that we should do as early.
Sooner than
Especially if
later.
yeah.
I mean, you know, some people have noticed, and I've noticed it out there, when there's rock sticking out in some areas and stuff. It's not just the stone walls. So,
And where they plan to build it, it's empty now, so it'd be easy to get the rig in.
Interesting to see what's as the foundation's getting taken out now too, around the what's coming out of there and stuff. So, but yes, I'm sure it's something it's something that we need to push and make sure that they're addressing, because we'll need that information. They need it to finish the design, I'm sure too, structurally and stuff.
Yeah, structural.
Okay.
Should be 7 sheets, and make sure your name's on all of them, and
You want these in order, help you as you're going through?
the order that we did them, right? So, because that's the order that the spreadsheet is in. So, and I will read that off as I find them here.
I have it right here.
It's Left Field, CMS, P3.
That's the order we want them in.
CMS, P3.
Lero Hill.
Lero Hill.
RGB, yeah, CHA, and then Colliers.
Great.
CMS and what?
Left Field, then CMS is second.
P3.
Then P3 is third.
Okay.
Lero Hill is fourth. RGB Architects is fifth. CHA is sixth. And Colliers is seventh.
If you turn them in alphabetical order by last name, that would help too.
Appreciate everybody's time these last 2 days. It's been a long one, but worth it, I think. So with that,
Motion to adjourn?
yeah.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, we're adjourned.